entrance of Wang's signing residence, Zhang Yi brandished his weapon, pointing it menacingly at Su Hao's head. The urgency of their mission was palpable as Zhang Yi coerced Su Hao into swiftly gaining entry. Su Hao, undeterred, rushed to the security camera, beseeching Wang's signing to open the door. Meanwhile, Wang Signing, comfortably sipping 1982 Lafai and observing the security monitor, questioned the unexpected visit, contemplating whether he was being deceived. Unable to spot the promised snowmobile, suspicion grew. As Zhang Yi's impatience escalated, he resorted to threatening Su Hao with a weapon, heightening the tension of their encounter. "Oh no. If you even try to deceive me, rest assured, I will shoot you without hesitation," Su Hao exclaimed with frustration as sweat poured down his face. "Please, brother Zhang, I would never dare to deceive you, even if I had the bravery to attempt it," he pleaded. Turning towards the camera, Su Hao whispered to Wang's silent communication, "We have put in so much effort for this. We cannot afford to fail now. If we miss this opportunity, there won't be another chance." Seeking reassurance, Su Hao hoped that they would not betray him. Meanwhile, Wang's silent response was to activate a mechanism that would completely obliterate them, leaving no trace behind in case of a double cross. With a deep breath, Wang pressed the button to unlock the main entrance of the lavish villa. Zhang Yi and Su Hao stepped into the sprawling space, their jaws dropping with awe. "Wow, wealthy individuals are truly on another level," they exclaimed, astounded by the multitude of entertainment options available. Su Hao gestures towards the passage up ahead and suggests to Zhang Yi that they proceed. He informs Zhang Yi that there is an additional door inside, which, once opened, will grant them access to the shelter. Zhang Yi agrees to follow Su Hao closely. Unbeknownst to them, Wang, who is monitoring the situation through surveillance cameras, notices that Zhang Yi has entered the dangerous area and decides to trigger his trap without any hesitation. Suddenly, exhaust ports positioned above the corridor open up, leaving both Zhang Yi and Su Hao startled. Wang cleverly aims to ensnare them both using this trap. In an instant, a suffocating gas is released from the ventilation pipes. Su Hao swiftly shields his nose and mouth to protect himself, but Zhang Yi remains composed as he has already planned his countermeasure. Wang then activates the tear gas mechanism, resulting in a thick cloud of smoke enveloping Zhang Yi and Su Hao. The two are fully committed to their plan to deceive Wang's signing. Zhang Yi angrily shouts at Su Hao, referring to him as a disrespectful piece of turd, demanding that he open the door immediately. Su Hao fires back, telling Zhang Yi to stop struggling. Zhang Yi mocks Su Hao, calling him a fool and asserting that even if Zhang Yi is killed, Su Hao won't survive. Suddenly, two gunshots can be heard amidst the smoky atmosphere. Wang Signing eagerly observes the obscured figures of the two men, thinking to himself that they are foolish idiots for coming to his door. He wonders if they genuinely believe they can overpower him. Determined to seize the opportunity, Zhang Yi manipulates the smoke to transport it into his own alternate realm. The voices of Zhang Yi and Su Hao gradually fade within the smog and the passage door opens slowly. With a calm demeanor, Zhang Yi carefully puts away his gas mask. Anticipating that as soon as Wang's accomplice enters, Zhang Yi assumes he will immediately shoot him. He hears footsteps approaching and can hardly contain his excitement, but realizes it's not Wang's accomplice. He questions the presence of other people in the shelter, but sets it aside for the moment. Zhang Yi continues to pretend to be unconscious until the person gets closer and lifts both of them onto his shoulders, heading towards the passage door. It dawns on Zhang Yi that this person is Ling Gang from the entertainment industry, known to have a good relationship with Wang's accomplice. Ling Gang dumps them in front of Wang's accomplice, who observes the unconscious pair. Ling Gang ties their arms behind their backs and remarks that one of them is exceptionally foolish. Wang's accomplice responds brusquely, stating that it is to be expected and that if he can't handle such a person, his expensive shelter is pointless. The two discuss their plan to take Zhang Yi's snowmobile, as they have been stuck in the shelter for over half a month, and Wang's accomplice is feeling restless. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi, lying on the ground, activates a special device to release hypnotic gas without being noticed. As they excitedly converse, the gas affects their stability and they begin to sway. Wang's accomplice remarks on Ling Gang's apparent excitement, unaware of the gas's effect. Ling Gang clarifies that he is not swaying, but rather sees multiple images of Wang's accomplice. Both men eventually collapse, giving Zhang Yi the opportunity to untie himself. He looks at the unconscious duo and realizes how effortlessly he defeated them. He grabs Wang's accomplice's expensive, pure gold handgun and muses about the lavish toys that wealthy people possess. However, he notes that they are all for show and lack practicality. With Wang's accomplice and the others taken care of, Zhang Yi starts exploring the rooms in curiosity, eager to see what extravagant possessions the wealthy indulge in. As soon as he enters a room, he is left speechless at what he finds. Oh my goodness! This level of opulence is beyond imagination. He proceeds to enter and discovers another door leading to a room filled with lush green plants. It's like an entire ecosystem in here. A smug grin appears on his face. From this day forward, this place belongs to me. Zhang Yi begins to inspect each room individually. Each room is labeled differently: game room, pet room, entertainment room, you name it. He enters a room with waterbeds where voluptuous women are sprawled around. Unfortunately, they are all lifeless. It seems that things are not as serene here as he had envisioned. He then makes his way to the basement, where a designated area for cats and dogs is set up. Wang's signature even cares for pets in this post-apocalyptic world. He opens the door and is left astounded. I have underestimated this. It turns out that these cats and dogs are actually Playboy bunnies and cat women. They are lying around, covered in unidentified substances, with needles scattered all over the floor. One of the bunnies crawls towards him, as if he is her savior, pleading to be her master. We were mistaken. Give me a little more. I will do anything you desire. I am your bunny. Zhang Yi kicks her away, thinking to himself, this Wang's signature truly knows how to manipulate. Zhang Yi decides he doesn't need this and proceeds to shoot them all dead. Next, he heads towards the control room, suspecting it to be the central hub of the entire shelter. Unfortunately, he is not a computer engineer. He notices that the basement also houses sports facilities, which he believes could be utilized to test his abilities in the future. As he continues his patrol, he arrives at a room where the system prompts an identity verification failure. He cannot proceed through this area. Looks like I will have to seek assistance from Master Wang after all, he ponders. Before splashing water on the two men to wake them up, he sarcastically says, "Wake up." Deep down, Zhang Yi mocks. At this moment, Wang's signature gazes at Zhang Yi in disbelief. How did you manage to accomplish this? Zhang Yi responds with a slight smile. The affluent individuals heavily depend on advanced technology, whereas we, the less fortunate, rely on genetic alterations. It is through these mutations that we manage to endure and adapt in the midst of the catastrophic event. With a stern expression, he directs his weapon towards Wang's gestures of communication. Very well, my esteemed leader. This is not an opportune moment for casual conversation. Let's proceed with our business matters. Zhang Yi bends down, contemplating on how to ensure my comfortable living in this exquisite villa. It is crucial for your own survival. Wang Signing, visibly anxious, implores Zhang Yi, offering to fulfill any of his desires in exchange for his freedom. In a nonchalant manner, Zhang Yi reassures him, stating that there is no need to worry. He does not possess a penchant for taking lives. All he desires is a stable abode, and considering the vastness of your residence, an additional person would hardly make a difference. Wang Signing regards him skeptically, suspecting that Zhang Yi's intentions are solely focused on occupying the premises without any malicious intent. Zhang Yi chuckles, deeming the act of killing him pointless, as he is not a murderer. Furthermore, he acknowledges that the ongoing snow disaster is temporary, and once normalcy is restored, he hopes to gain your favor. Upon hearing this, Wang Signing becomes intrigued, realizing that Zhang Yi wishes to establish a friendship. They both understand that society will eventually return to its usual state. By extending a helping hand to these individuals from rural areas, it is only a matter of time before I ascend to the top. These individuals possess remarkable strategic skills. However, I am not easily swayed. If you truly desire friendship, release me promptly. My hands are devoid of sensation. Zhang Yi wears a smile on his face. The act of untying you is a simple task, but in exchange, you must relinquish control of the shelter's systems to me." Wang Xining hesitates, his signature wavering. "If I grant you control, can you assure us that you won't bring harm upon us?" Zhang Yi reassures him once more. "Fear not, my friend. I promise that by cooperating with me, you will experience a life of luxury." With no other alternatives, Wang Xining surrenders complete control of the shelter's operating systems. Zhang Yi dramatically sweeps his hand over the control panel, declaring his dominance from this moment forward. "I am the master of this domain." Wang Xining, standing beside him, acquiesces, affirming, yes, you are now the master. Please release me from my restraints. My entire body is numb." Zhang Yi ominously rises to his feet. "Just wait a moment, my lord. I will free you shortly." Zhang Yi cunningly retrieves an eyeball from his concealed position and forcefully drags it across Wang's throat, causing a sudden eruption of crimson fluid. The sight leaves Wang's companion, who is proficient in sign language, utterly astounded. "You vowed not to end my life," he exclaims in disbelief, accusing Zhang Yi of betraying his promise. With a mocking gaze, Zhang Yi retorts, "Calm down. Initially, you may experience a slight disorientation, but the agony will soon subside." Wang's companion collapses to the ground, ceasing all signs of life. Zhang Yi gazes upon him, unaffected by the gruesome scene. "Apologies, I forgot to mention that I don't keep unproductive individuals in my circle." While tidying up the aftermath and removing the traces of blood from the floor, Zhang Yi contemplates how to handle Su Hao. Eliminating Wang Xining resolved one problem, but he remains uncertain about Su Hao. After all, Su Hao did assist in seizing Wang Xining's residence. At that moment, Su Hao slowly regains consciousness and observes Zhang Yi cleaning the bloodstains. He becomes elated. "Bro Zhang, we did it, didn't we?" He stands up and notices Wang Xining's lifeless body on the ground, stepping on it while laughing. "I never imagined this day would come for you. You wretched creature. Not taking your life myself was too kind." Zhang Yi points towards a backpack resting on the sofa, indicating a reward. Upon hearing about the reward, Su Hao eagerly opens the backpack, discovering it filled with food. His eyes light up as he begins to indulge in the feast. "Bro Zhang, you truly are like a brother to me. From now on, I will follow you wherever you go. Your commands are absolute." Zhang Yi sighs. This is all that remains of Wang Xining's hideout. Moreover, it doesn't have much energy left to sustain it either. Su Hao immediately becomes anxious. "What are you saying? This is all that's left in the hideout? Are you kidding me? Engaging in a deep and meaningful conversation with you to resolve the issue of Wang's involvement, and now you want to deceive me with this? You want to take control of everything and exclude me? Absolutely not. I was the one who provided you with valuable information about the shelter." Zhang Yi chuckles. "I have no motive to deceive you. Wang's involvement has wasted all the available resources." Su Hao insists. "I don't know if you're being truthful or not, but you had everyone in the community confused and uncertain. If you plan on betraying me after I've served my purpose, I will expose your hidden abilities. Someone will come after you." Zhang Yi's expression turns cold. "It seems like I have been too lenient with you." He raises his hand and shoots Su Hao. "I gave you an opportunity and you wasted it. What use are you to me now?" Su Hao falls to the ground, still unable to comprehend why this is happening as he takes his last breath. Zhang Yi gazes at the lifeless body of Su Hao. "May you be a better person in your next life. If you lack power, refrain from making empty threats." He picks up his backpack. "I had intended to let you live a little longer, but it seems you are determined to forget everything. I can only bid you farewell." Sitting in the entertainment area, Zhang Yi daydreams. It would be absolutely marvelous to endure this period until the conclusion of the apocalypse. It would be even more captivating if I had brought Zhu Qier along. As for Uncle Yu, I have alternative intentions for him. Zhang Yi uncorks a bottle of crimson wine and switches on the television. To his astonishment, a depiction of a foreign lady materializes, prompting him to flip through numerous international channels. Considering the tempestuous weather, how did Wang Simon accomplish this feat? After pondering for a while, he comprehends the situation and discovers a concealed door linked to various cables. Upon entering, he stumbles upon an autonomous server. His eyes instantly illuminate with excitement. Judging by the robustness of the signal, the system's transmission speed spans across the globe. With this cutting-edge network infrastructure, I can now access precise information from the external world. Subsequently, he settles down to peruse through the gathered information. In a mere month, only a quarter of the world's 8.5 billion population remains. Zhang Yi feels an overwhelming sense of gratitude for having prepared provisions in advance. At this pace, it would be satisfactory if a mere 5% of the populace survives in the forthcoming days. However, he suddenly comes across numerous reports regarding mutated individuals. Numerous countries have reported individuals with various genetic alterations, both positive and negative in nature. Some possess the extraordinary ability to summon flames or transform into bears, while others undergo a metamorphosis into towering green giants. However, only a select few have acquired special powers, while the majority have suffered physical deformities due to exposure to gamma radiation. Having thoroughly examined all available information, Zhang Yi firmly believes that there are others like him who conceal their true strength, indicating an incredibly perilous external world. This realization further solidifies his determination to remain within the safety of the shelter, prompting him to devise a plan to retrieve Joker from the secure house. As Zhang Yi steps outside and starts his snowmobile, he is suddenly interrupted by a captivating voice. Reacting swiftly, he instinctively aims his gun at the unexpected newcomer. To his astonishment, it is none other than the renowned actress Yang Mi, who has been setting the entertainment industry ablaze. She is a woman who embodies the dreams of many men, now standing before him, pleading to be taken away. Observing Yang Mi, Zhang Yi contemplates how the harsh snowstorm has made life arduous for everyone. If she wishes for him to accompany her, she must provide a compelling reason. Yang Mi, with a gentle and delicate appearance, utters, "Accompany me and provide me with sustenance, and I shall consent to any terms." She then puckers her lips and plants a kiss on Zhang Yi's cheek. His face flushes crimson, and his heart surrenders to Yang Mi's charm. Considering the desolate circumstances of the apocalypse, having another woman to share his bed doesn't seem like a terrible idea. With this thought in mind, he decides to bring her to his new abode. Yang Mi observes Zhang Yi's adeptness as he enters Wang Ximing's residence. Feigning surprise, she inquires, "Is this not Wang Ximing's dwelling? What is your connection to him?" Zhang Yi evades her question and cautiously asks, "Are you acquainted with Wang Ximing?" He contemplates that if she possesses any association with Wang Ximing, he will eliminate her immediately to prevent any future complications. Yang Mi adjusts her tone. "I am not very familiar with Wang Ximing. You know how it is in our social circle. We only meet at events and exchange nods and greetings." Zhang Yi pours tea, contemplating the situation. "It's a clever move. I will let you off the hook this time." He hands the tea to Yang Mi. "In any case, this place now belongs to me. Do not ask questions that you shouldn't be asking." Yang Mi drinks the tea, relishing its warmth. "This is the first cup of hot water I have had in days." She then calmly asks Zhang Yi if she can use the bathroom for a warm shower. Zhang Yi naturally agrees. Yang Mi undresses and leaves her clothes in the living room, enjoying the luxurious hot shower.
She ponders on ways to make Zhang Yi her lapdog.
She believes that with her beauty, it won't be difficult to win him over. And compared to some unattractive, middle-aged men she knows, Zhang Yi is quite a catch. She believes her good luck hasn't run out yet. Even if she has to be with Zhang Yi for a few months, she is willing. After her shower, Yang Mi walks out barefoot. She has firmly decided. She is determined to do whatever is necessary to remain. She possesses a crystal-clear understanding of the forthcoming events and mentally readies herself, reminding herself that it is merely a business arrangement. After the snowstorm subsides and life resumes its usual course, she will continue to be a highly esteemed public figure, and this incident will remain unknown to anyone. She drapes a towel around her body and gracefully approaches Zhang Yi, playfully inquiring if she may prolong her stay. She makes a vow to serve Zhang Yi diligently if he grants her permission to remain. Observing Zhang Yi's unyielding stance, she reaches out and clasps his hand. "Don't worry," she assures him, "I won't cause any trouble for you." Once the snowstorm subsides, I will depart quietly." Zhang Yi dismisses her gesture, realizing that she views his abode merely as a means to an end and intends to leave once the snowstorm ceases. Taking a sip of red wine, he retorts sarcastically, setting aside whether the snowstorm will ever end, even if the ice age passes. "Do you believe the world will revert to its former state?" Yang Mi suddenly becomes anxious and asserts, "Of course, things can return to how they were." As she utters these words, it is as if she is reassuring herself. If the world cannot regain its previous state, wouldn't all her past accomplishments be in vain? Zhang Yi has no interest in engaging in a debate with her. If you believe things can return to normal, then they will. However, for now, if you are staying in my residence, you will abide by my rules. Zhang Yi draws Yang Mi closer to him, his voice barely audible as he utters, "I comprehend." Zhang Yi no longer adheres to formalities. With Yang Mi's arrival, he finds no reason to decline her request. Once the task is completed, Zhang Yi retrieves a garment from an alternate realm and tosses it towards Yang Mi. She gazes at him, utterly bewildered. What kind of extraordinary ability is this? Summoning objects out of thin air. Just as Zhang Yi is about to turn away, Yang Mi seizes his arm. "Don't leave," she pleads. Amused, he regards her with a brotherly gaze. "What is it now?" Still unsatisfied, Yang Mi's face flushes as she exclaims, "You misunderstand. I have something important to discuss with you." At this point, Zhang Yi begins to feel a pang of hunger. "Very well. Let us proceed to the dining area and converse over a meal." Without delay, Yang Mi takes a seat at the dining table. Zhang Yi promptly conjures an assortment of food from another realm and places it before them. "Since we will be cohabitating, let us establish some ground rules." He speaks calmly, stating that his residence is quite spacious. The addition of another woman would not have any significant impact. He has only one requirement, which he expresses by saying, "Oh, be me." He believes that Yang Mi, being intelligent, should understand his meaning. Yang Mi, being a top-tier celebrity, comprehends the underlying message Zhang Yi is conveying. It is evident that he is establishing unspoken rules. However, Yang Mi did not achieve her status by being naive. She straightens her posture and speaks slowly, stating that she can agree to his terms. Nevertheless, she also has principles that she hopes he will respect. Zhang Yi gestures with his hands, displaying amusement, and agrees to listen to her conditions. Yang Mi, with seriousness, declares that whatever occurs between them must remain confidential during this snowstorm period. If they were to part ways, he cannot disclose their actions. As a public figure, her reputation would be tarnished if people were to find out. Zhang Yi, while casually eating, understands her concerns and readily agrees to her terms. Some may find this encouraging. Yang Mi proceeds to state her second condition, emphasizing that he cannot force her to engage in activities that make her uncomfortable or make outrageous demands, unless she consents. After expressing this, she blushes and awkwardly shifts her feet. Zhang Yi appears puzzled, questioning why she is acting as if she is the victim, when she was the one who approached him. He is not inexperienced either and pulls her closer. "Don't pretend to be innocent here, especially when you're an actress. Have you ever heard of quid pro quo? How did you manage to become a highly regarded celebrity with such subpar acting skills?" Yang Mi falls silent, unable to respond to Zhang Yi's criticism. He lifts her up and gently places her on the dining table, whispering in her ear, "Don't worry. You don't have any strange fetishes, but thank you for the reminder." Yang Mi has witnessed far more peculiar behavior in her industry. In comparison, Zhang Yi has been quite reasonable. They then spend the entire night engaging in a detailed discussion about a script. Early the next morning, Zhang Yi gets ready to leave. Suddenly, he remembers that his friend Uncle Yu is still single and asks Yang Mi, "Are most of the people living here wealthy women and celebrities?" She nods. "Yes, you need to be affluent or have a high status to reside here." Zhang Yi smiles. "I have a friend who is a good person, but was recently deceived by a cunning woman. He could benefit from some female companionship to heal his broken heart. Could you perhaps help find someone suitable within your social circle?" Upon hearing this, Yang Mi appears surprised. She ponders, wondering how she is being perceived. It dawns on her that the remaining women in the affluent neighborhood are slightly older. Zhang Yi remembers that Uncle Yu has a preference for mature women, so Yang Mi eerily remarks, making the situation easier. She promptly reaches out to the renowned Shoheim. Zhang Yi's face lights up upon hearing the name, cursing Uncle Yu under her breath. He is just buying time. Shoheim is a woman of dreams for many. Numerous promises are made to Shoheim, enticing her with a lavish feast if she agrees to spend time with Uncle Yu. Shoheim contemplates the offer. She has been starving for days and would do anything for food. Without wasting any more time, Zhang Yi conjures food from an alternate dimension and Shoheim begins devouring it greedily. Zhang Yi gazes at both women. "We are all intelligent individuals here. From now on, I will take care of your sustenance. However, if anyone divulges information from this place, food will be the least of your worries. Your life will be at stake." With these words, he departs to relocate valuable items and individuals, including Shu Kier and Uncle Yu, to his current whereabouts. Meanwhile, in another village named Su Family Town, young people are diligently drilling through the icy layer underground. Sled dogs are sprinting vigorously when suddenly, a loud noise reverberates through the air. They break through the thick layer of ice, causing small fish to leap out of the freezing water. The diligent workers swiftly gather the fish, displaying their impressive skills. A young man curiously turns to his uncle and asks, "Uncle, do you think the people in the city have succumbed to the bitter cold and frozen to death?" The uncle sighs, shaking his head. "Those city dwellers have no knowledge of farming. They rely on us for their sustenance. They are most likely starving by now, if not already deceased. Fortunately, we, the rural folk, possess food reserves and resilience. We can endure this harsh weather, although it is undeniably challenging." Suddenly, a distant rumbling sound catches their attention. The uncle becomes alert, as encounters with other living beings are rare in such extreme cold. Could that be the sound of a snowmobile? He wonders aloud. Just then, Johnny zooms by on his snowmobile, his surprise evident upon seeing the people of Su Family Town engaged in ice fishing. He also takes note of their sleds. Johnny is astounded by the rapid adaptation of people to this frigid catastrophe. If he hadn't witnessed it himself, he would have assumed that Eskimos had relocated to Su Family Town. The villagers catch sight of Johnny's snowmobile, which is akin to a Rolls-Royce in this snowy setting. Without uttering a word, they command their sled dogs to give chase, entering a state of frenzy. Johnny's heart races as he hastily accelerates, fleeing at high speed. Meanwhile, on the frozen river, a pack of 8 dogs relentlessly pursues him, their tongues hanging out. Their eyes turn crimson upon spotting Johnny. If he is captured by this group, he will undoubtedly face significant trouble. Suddenly, a fisherman hurls a harpoon towards Johnny, instantly igniting his anger. "Blast it. If that harpoon strikes my arm, it could either maim or kill me." Johnny curses vehemently, causing Shoheim to be thrown off due to the force. The fishermen catch up and confront Johnny. "Leave the woman in the snowmobile, then you can go," they demand. Johnny gazes at them coldly and swiftly retrieves a handgun, aiming it at them. The fishermen become visibly anxious. "Look man, let's talk. There's no need for knives and guns." However, upon witnessing the stunning woman on the snowmobile, they hesitate to release him. This is the territory of Su Family Town, and to pass through, a toll must be paid. They present Johnny with a choice: leave the woman or abandon the vehicle. Johnny smirks, questioning what would happen if he refuses to choose either option. The fisherman's demeanor instantly shifts to seriousness, warning Johnny that even with a gun, it would be futile against their numerous people and dogs. Johnny's gaze grows colder as he realizes he must swiftly bring this to an end. Escaping would become challenging if other fishermen from the village were to arrive. Taking a deep breath, he mutters to himself, acknowledging that he has been forced into this situation. Johnny then reveals another weapon, declaring that they have brought this upon themselves and should not blame him. He raises both guns and fires, resulting in the downfall of several individuals from Su Family Town. Uncle Su is taken aback, realizing that this man means business. He quickly commands the ferocious dog to attack Johnny, but Johnny is already prepared. He opens his hand, patiently waiting for the opportune moment. With a single thought, he activates another dimension, causing all 8 frenzied dogs to be sucked in. Seizing this window of opportunity, Johnny swiftly picks up the injured Shoheim from the ground, starts the snowmobile, and speeds away. Johnny reflects on the villagers who are steadily arriving, realizing how fortunate they were to escape unharmed. The incident with the aggressive dogs was a close call. Thankfully, Johnny's quick thinking led them to utilize an alternate dimension as a means of defense. Those ferocious canines will soon meet their demise in that confined space. Moreover, this situation presents an opportunity for Johnny to observe and compare the passage of time between the alternate dimension and the real world. Meanwhile, as the other villagers arrive, they are taken aback by the sight of lifeless bodies strewn across the ground. It is evident that they have encountered a formidable adversary. Their attention is then drawn to another puzzling matter: the absence of their 8 loyal snow dogs. This is highly unusual, as these dogs were well trained and would never wander off without commands. The loss of not only 4 lives but also the disappearance of 8 snow dogs spells trouble for them. In light of these circumstances, the respected elder among them speaks up. This individual possesses not only a firearm and a snowmobile but has also managed to eliminate numerous individuals from Sioux family town. Clearly, this person possesses extraordinary abilities. Perhaps they even possess superhuman powers, akin to our village's revered Chumla. It is imperative that we refrain from acting rashly and instead seek guidance from the village leader. Upon returning to Sioux family town, the village head assembles a group and heads towards Chumla's residence. To their surprise, they find him peacefully asleep, tightly clutching a 2D anime doll. The village head's face turns red with anger upon seeing the room filled with numerous 2D dolls, and he scolds Chumla for his behavior. "You are a grown man," he reprimands. "Why are you collecting these fake dolls? Aren't you ashamed? Our village is blessed with beautiful young women, far superior to these lifeless dolls." Chumla lazily stretches and retorts, "Grandpa, you are completely mistaken. Can we even consider the village women as young ladies? Besides, collecting these dolls is my hobby. Why do you even care?" Just then, Sue interrupts. "This morning, while we were fishing, we encountered a young man who brutally killed 4 of us and stole our snow dogs. He possessed incredible power, just like you. Our village may no longer be safe." Chumla ponders the situation and remarks, "We have only just resolved conflicts with neighboring villages, and now this. When will we finally experience some peace?" Meanwhile, Johnny safely drops Shoheim off at the entrance of an apartment complex. As they part ways, Johnny informs Shoheim, "The man you are about to meet is located in this building. Please come upstairs with me." Shoheim agrees. Despite the reluctance, in this post-apocalyptic world, having a companion to team up with is not a poor decision. While conversing, Johnny has already entered a secure location. At this particular moment, Joe Kyer is filled with immense joy, akin to that of a child. "Johnny, you have finally returned safely. Congratulations." She promptly assists Johnny in removing his coat. When Joe Kyer notices the woman standing behind Johnny, she senses a certain level of threat. Without delay, she starts attending to Johnny's needs. "Are you tired? Are you thirsty? Would you like something to eat?" Johnny momentarily disregards Joe Kyer and requests Shoheim to take a seat first. Joe Kyer, with her woman's intuition, detects that something is different about Johnny. "I now comprehend. You have a preference for mature women, don't you?" Johnny smiles faintly. "Don't overanalyze it. This woman is here to take care of Uncle Yu. However, you are correct in assuming that I have a preference for mature women." Joe Kyer appears stunned. Johnny is more concerned about Uncle Yu's well-being. Kyer promptly provides an update, stating that Uncle Yu has made significant progress in his recovery, which is truly remarkable. Typically, such recovery would take a minimum of 3 months. Additionally, I administered the prescribed muscle relaxant as per your instructions, but it doesn't seem to diminish his strength. Johnny acknowledges this, confirming my suspicions that Uncle Yu possesses an augmenting type of mutation. Now, how is his mental state? After contemplating for a moment, Joe Kyer responds that Uncle Yu appears to be fine, exhibiting normal mental state with no discernible issues. Upon hearing this, Johnny ponders and strokes his chin. "I have come across online accounts of individuals experiencing perilous physical mutations after acquiring superpowers. I am relieved that Uncle Yu did not undergo such a fate. Subsequently, Johnny pays a visit to Uncle Yu's room and finds him in good health. Furthermore, he informs Uncle Yu about capturing a signing shelled the previous day. In response, Uncle Yu remarks, "Rich people certainly know how to have fun." Zhang Yi calmly replies, stating that there are numerous affluent individuals both domestically and internationally, many of whom have constructed shelters. In this regard, the wealthy and influential have a higher chance of survival in this post-apocalyptic world. Uncle Yu humbly bows his head, expressing his gratitude towards Zhang Yi. He acknowledges that if it weren't for Zhang Yi's intervention, he wouldn't have survived. Zhang Yi, however, dismisses the need for formalities and proceeds to inquire about any changes Uncle Yu might have noticed in his body recently. In response, Uncle Yu lifts his shirt, revealing a perplexing phenomenon. Despite sustaining severe gunshot wounds, his recovery has been remarkably swift, taking only a few days. Furthermore, he has experienced a significant increase in strength, as demonstrated by effortlessly lifting a nearby sofa with one hand. Zhang Yi observes Uncle Yu with a mixture of delight and astonishment, acknowledging the incredible display of power. Uncle Yu, on the other hand, feels bewildered and somewhat disturbed by his newfound abilities, perceiving himself as some sort of monstrous being. Zhang Yi, however, reassures him cheerfully, urging him not to worry excessively. He explains that Uncle Yu has awakened a formidable ability, likening it to a tadpole successfully transforming into a frog. Uncle Yu gazes at Zhang Yi, still perplexed by the situation. Zhang Yi, with a smile, reveals that he too possesses awakened abilities, exemplified by his ability to produce food from another dimension. Uncle Yu is left completely dumbfounded, finally understanding why Zhang Yi always seems to possess an endless supply of resources. Uncle Yu suddenly became filled with excitement, forcefully pushing his hand and causing the bed to overturn. He then fell heavily to the ground. Zhang Yi advises Uncle Yu to take some time to adjust to his new body before taking any actions. Observing Uncle Yu's condition, Zhang Yi feels immense joy. The stronger Uncle Yu becomes, the safer I will be. Meanwhile, Zhu Qier and the famous superstar, Zhu Haimei, are occupied in the living room. Zhang Yi refocuses on the matter at hand. "Uncle Yu, I have found a potential wife for you. Are you interested?" Uncle Yu glances at Zhu Haimei in the living room, and his eyes widen in disbelief. This is the dream goddess of every man, Zhu Haimei. Am I hallucinating? Zhu Haimei approaches and greets Uncle Yu with a smile. "Hello, Mr. Yu." Uncle Yu nods vigorously, slightly delayed. His dream goddess is actually speaking to him. Given the extraordinary circumstances, Zhang Yi looks at both of them and decides to skip the formalities. "You two should consider living together as a couple. I will transfer ownership of this house to both of you, while Zhu Qier and I will find a new place to live." Uncle Yu becomes worried and expresses his concerns. "Zhang Yi, this is not right. I have already received so much from you. This house is your security, and I cannot take it away from you." Zhang Yi reassures Uncle Yu and tells him not to worry. "Please don't be so formal with me, Uncle Yu. I have found a better place to stay, and you and your wife are welcome to visit anytime." After settling Uncle Yu's worries, Zhang Yi and Zhu Qier head downstairs to their new home. Finally, Zhang Yi presents a wedding gift to Uncle Yu. He surprises him by revealing a snowmobile from another space. Uncle Yu is amazed and refuses to accept it, concerned about Zhang Yi's transportation needs. Zhang Yi insists that Uncle Yu not be so formal and reassures him that he can manage without the snowmobile. He then reveals an off-road snow vehicle from another space, leaving everyone speechless. Is this Zhang Yi's idea of managing? Meanwhile, in Su family town, there is widespread anxiety as everyone eagerly awaits the decision of Chun Lei, the village's star of hope. Chun Lei believes he is the chosen individual, destined for greatness. "This must be a divine indication to enhance my strength." The leader of the village expresses his apprehension, stating that Chun Lei is too powerful and unbeatable. He emphasizes that Chun Lei is the hope of our village and the entire Su family town relies on him. He pleads with Chun Lei not to let them down. However, Chun Lei becomes carried away and assures the village leader not to worry, as he is confident in his abilities. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi and Zhu Qier are traveling towards their new village in an off-road vehicle. Curiously, Zhu Qier asks about their new house, wondering what it is like. Zhang Yi playfully responds, teasing her. He mentions that their new home is spacious and much more comfortable than their current residence. However, he warns her to be prepared, as there is now an additional person living with them in their new home. Upon hearing this, Zhu Qier becomes anxious and questions if it is another woman. Worried that Zhang Yi's feelings have changed, she seeks reassurance. Zhang Yi comforts her by patting her hand and assures her not to overthink it. He explains that he simply wanted to ensure she wouldn't be overwhelmed with responsibilities, so he found someone to help share the workload with her. Zhu Qier finally finds solace as she snuggles up close to Zhang Yi. She expresses her belief that he loves her the most, to which Zhang Yi responds with a smile. Reflecting on their actions, he acknowledges that what has been done was consensual. He reassures Zhu Qier that as long as she remains obedient, everything will be fine. With determination, Zhang Yi starts the engine and drives forward through the intensifying snow and wind, which has become even more fierce since the beginning of the snowstorm. Suddenly, a powerful whirlwind strikes the back of their off-road vehicle, alerting Zhang Yi to the fact that something is amiss. He realizes that this snowstorm is far from natural, and a loud bang further confirms his suspicions. As a gust of wind threatens to veer the vehicle off course, Zhang Yi tightly grips the wheel and presses down on the gas pedal. He instructs Zhu Qier to hold on tightly and extends his left hand, creating a different space with a swift motion, which absorbs and neutralizes the attacking snowstorm. Frustrated, Zhang Yi exclaims, "Damn, this is unexpected." He realizes that he has never encountered such a situation before. Uncertain of the other person's strength, he contemplates the possibility that his opponent may possess superpowers as well. What worries him the most is that he has already revealed his trump card while knowing nothing about the capabilities of his adversary. Two villagers have a strange feeling that something is not right. "Chunlei, can you explain what is happening? Why didn't your special ability work this time?" Chunlei responds, "Oh no, we have encountered a formidable opponent. We must find an alternative approach. Let's retreat for now." Meanwhile, Zhang Yi, who is inside the vehicle, is prepared for action. He retrieves a censored weapon with a powerful scope from a concealed location. "Do you really think you can attack me and escape? Witness how I bring you down," he declares, raising the censored weapon. He takes aim and fires 2 shots. One of the villagers collapses to the ground. Chunlei and the other villager are left in shock. This individual possesses a censored weapon and can hit targets from an incredible distance. It goes against all rationality. Zhang Yi raises the censored weapon once more, causing Chunlei to hide behind a snow-covered mountain in fear. Zhang Yi smirks and says, "Now that you're hiding, allow me to reciprocate the gift you just bestowed upon me." With a swift motion, he raises his left hand and unleashes the absorbed tornado back into the wild. Chunlei's eyes widen in astonishment as he witnesses a tornado identical to his own extraordinary power. He mutters under his breath, realizing that this young individual possesses the same superpower as him. Just as the tornado threatens to engulf him, Chunlei summons every ounce of his remaining strength and unleashes his superpower once more. The 2 tornadoes collide with a tremendous force, nullifying each other's existence. Seizing this momentary distraction, Chunlei seizes the opportunity to make his escape. Observing the retreating figures, Zhang Yi decides to temporarily let them go. He understands the risks of pursuing them into the villagers' territory, especially with Zhu Qier present in the car. A single misstep could have catastrophic consequences. If seeking vengeance is their desire, Zhang Yi challenges them to come find him, but warns that the next encounter will take place on his own turf. Zhang Yi swiftly moves forward, continuing his journey towards Lark Manor. In the midst of it all, he realizes that he has gained valuable insights from the recent battle. It becomes evident to him that individuals with extraordinary abilities will likely dominate the future world. Concerned about the possibility of retaliation from those who survived, Zhu Qier inquires if they will seek revenge. Zhang Yi assures her, urging her not to worry. "Our new sanctuary is exceptionally secure," he affirms. "Even if a catastrophic force like a tornado were to strike, it would have no impact on our lives." Meanwhile, Su Daipin and his companions are assisting the wounded as they make their way towards Su family town. "Ever since my superpower awakened, I have always been the one delivering blows," Su Daipin reflects. "However, this is the first time I have been pursued and attacked. I came perilously close to losing my life." In another location, Yang Mi, adorned in alluring lingerie, reclines on the bed. She finds herself unaccustomed to being confined like a bird in a cage and ponders how to pass the time when suddenly, the door clicks open. Zhang Yi enters the room and politely requests Yang Mi to wake up. He informs her that he wants to introduce her to a friend. Yang Mi is taken aback and wonders if he intends to pass her on to someone else. Zhang Yi finds her reaction amusing and laughs. He explains that, based on the order of their arrival, Yang Mi should address the friend as her sister. This surprises Yang Mi once again, prompting her to nervously inquire if the friend is Zhang Yi's girlfriend. In response, Zhang Yi hands her some clothes and casually remarks that the friend is close enough. Yang Mi starts contemplating the situation, realizing that as an international A-list star, she cannot afford to lose to a village girl by sharing a man. Determined, she applies beautiful makeup to herself, determined to maintain her grace and elegance. She thinks to herself, I may face challenges in other aspects, but I will not lose my composure. Meanwhile, Zhu Qier also meticulously prepares herself for the upcoming introduction. A woman's allure is her most powerful weapon. The battle has just commenced. After an extensive period of careful preparation, Yang Mi finally enters the living room. However, as soon as the two women make eye contact, Zhang Yi is taken aback and disheartened. It's you. In this moment, Zhang Yi stands in the middle, perplexed. Do the two of you have some sort of connection? Zhu Qier angrily informs Zhang Yi. This individual is my cousin. However, the relationship between the two women seems strained. Yang Mi pulls Zhang Yi to the side and whispers, Zhang Yi, please, no matter what happens, do not let Zhu Qier discover our secret. Zhang Yi scratches his chin and grins. Our secret? What secret? Instantly, Yang Mi becomes infuriated. The arrangement between us. Zhang Yi finds himself in an increasingly intriguing predicament as he observes an enraged Zhu Qier and a cautious Yang Mi. As it turns out, both the Zhu and Yang clans are renowned for their scholarly customs, boasting a plethora of talented individuals. Yang Mi, however, opted for the entertainment industry in her pursuit of fame, willingly embracing the role of an actress. Zhu Qier gazes at Yang Mi with a discerning eye, questioning her true talent and suggesting that she should have achieved success through her own merits. The family's reservations about her fame are well known, and it has become a subject of mockery among the elite circles. The disgrace it brings is not only repulsive to hear, but also unbearable to witness. Zhang Yi, with Yang Mi's expression amusingly evident behind him, dismissively waves his hand, declaring his indifference towards her past grievances. In this place, there are no longer distinguished families or top celebrities, we are now merely neighbors facing adversity together. The two women hesitantly exchange handshakes, reaching a mutual understanding to coexist peacefully. Subsequently, Zhang Yi guides them towards an underground oasis, adorned with an abundance of flourishing vegetables and plants. He instructs them, your responsibilities encompass not only domestic duties, but also the nurturing of these botanical treasures, which are vital for our logistical needs. Both individuals were not in a state of happiness. They were relieved to have something to occupy themselves with in order to avoid idleness and potential conflicts. They were now living under the same roof. Subsequently, Zhang Yi instructs Zhu Qier to go upstairs and tidy up the bedroom, leaving a grateful young Mi behind. She expresses her gratitude, saying, thank you for keeping our secret just now. I already owe my cousin so much. If she discovers that I am competing with her for a boyfriend, it will break her heart. Can we please keep our relationship a secret from her moving forward? However, Zhang Yi has different plans in mind. With only 3 people in such a large shelter, staying hidden would be quite challenging. Nevertheless, Zhang Yi quickly agrees to Yang Mi's request. In order to show her appreciation for keeping their secret, Yang Mi offers to cook for Zhang Yi. He is somewhat surprised, as he didn't expect a famous star to know how to cook. Yang Mi proceeds to the kitchen. It should not be assumed that all celebrities are useless. In fact, I find cooking to be a relaxing activity when I am bored. However, to her disappointment, she discovers that the kitchen lacks ingredients. It is the classic scenario of not having any rice to cook, even for a clever woman like her. Yang Mi searches diligently, but her efforts prove fruitless as she finds nothing. Observing Yang Mi pacing back and forth, Zhang Yi can't help but admire her physique. He quietly approaches her from behind and lets out a gentle breath. Nervously, Yang Mi stands up and moves away. She glances anxiously towards the upstairs. Her face turns red as she inquires, "What are you doing? Didn't we agree not to behave like this? What if our relationship is discovered?" Zhang Yi smiles and replies, "I can't help it. You are too captivating." He then reveals a large amount of ingredients from another area and places them on the table. Yang Mi's eyes widen in astonishment. "Oh my god. How do you have so many things? I can't believe what I am seeing. Even in this apocalyptic winter, there is an abundance of food. It feels almost too luxurious." Zhang Yi playfully pats Yang Mi's hips and reassures her, "Don't worry. From now on, we will eat like this." After indulging in some culinary preparations, Yang Mi reaches out to Zhang Yi, expressing her concern for his appetite. Yang Yi gazes at the array of dishes laid out before him, feeling immensely content. Meanwhile, both Zhu and Yang Mi harbor their own contemplations. Zhu takes a bite of the dish's foundation and promptly displays a displeased expression, accompanied by a hint of disdain. The excessive saltiness leaves him questioning how anyone could possibly consume such a concoction. On the other hand, Yang Mi quietly consumes her rice, her head slightly lowered, burdened by a sense of guilt. After all, it is no simple task to achieve the perfect seasoning under such circumstances. Zhang Yi observes the unfolding events with a concealed smile. He deliberately stokes a rivalry between the two women for his own benefit. Swiftly, he picks up a dish using his chopsticks and offers it to Zhu Care, ensuring it is less salty. Zhu Care, feeling content, consumes the dish and immediately begins to act affectionate. "Food always tastes better when Brother E feeds it to me," she remarks. Meanwhile, Yang Mi, seated nearby, watches the duo's performance with a heavy heart. Later that night, Zhu Care anxiously questions Zhang Yi, having witnessed the earlier incident in the kitchen. "Who is better, Yang Mi or me?" she asks. Employing his adept acting skills, Zhang Yi reassures her, "Don't overthink it, baby. You are the one I love the most." Upon hearing this, the innocent Zhu Care embraces Zhang Yi tightly. "I knew it, Brother E loves Zhu Care the most," she exclaims. Zhang Yi silently reflects, "You truly are naive." Despite his apparent passionate devotion to Zhu Care, he has never truly been in love with her. Being with her merely fulfills his basic needs as a man. To him, love is nothing more than a malady that causes people to lose their rationality. Zhang Yi has been leisurely practicing shooting at Lark Manor when his phone suddenly rings. As he's about to answer, he realizes it's not a voice call, but a regular phone dialing. With all electrical grids down since the apocalypse and most people he knew gone, he becomes curious about this unknown number. "Even if you're a god, I can't be bothered," he mutters, promptly hanging up and blocking the number. Oddly enough, within 2 minutes, the same number calls again. This time, Zhang Yi is unnerved. "What's going on? I blocked this number. How could it call again?" Thinking that maybe he didn't block it properly, he blocks it again. Right on cue, the phone rings once more. This time, Zhang Yi is genuinely panicked. What the hell is happening? Is this some sort of haunting? Just as he's freaking out, the call answers itself. The voice on the other end starts questioning Zhang Yi. "Why aren't you answering my calls?" Although Zhang Yi is panicking internally, he tells himself to stay calm. The individual on the opposite side of the telephone line is of significant importance compared to the lowlifes encountered previously. The voice on the other end proceeds to divulge intricate personal details about Zhang Yi, ranging from his date of birth and family address to his current residence at Lark Manor and even his previous place of employment. At this juncture, Zhang Yi can no longer contain his curiosity. "Who are you?" he inquires. "And how do you possess such extensive knowledge about me?" The man on the other end, who happens to be rather overweight, chuckles. "Don't fret," he reassures. "Simply hand over the supplies you possess, and I shall refrain from exposing your information." Upon hearing this, Zhang Yi bursts into laughter. "Have you taken the incorrect medication?" he jests. "Do you genuinely believe that you can blackmail me for supplies based on this information? Go ahead and expose it. I couldn't care less." Fat Bro persists. "What if individuals were to discover that you possess the supplies that went missing from the South City warehouse? What then?" Zhang Yi clenches his teeth in frustration. Zhang Yi feigns ignorance, questioning the validity of the accusation. You claim that I possess them, but does that automatically make it true? Who would be gullible enough to believe you? He retorts. Furthermore, I am merely a low-ranking supervisor. How could I possibly be involved in the theft at the South City warehouse? Fat Bro remains composed as he responds, warning Zhang Yi against playing games. I might as well reveal my identity to you. I am Lu Fengde from Intelligent Cloud Group, he calmly states. Upon hearing this name, Zhang Yi's expression freezes. Lu Fengde is a prominent figure in the domestic information industry. The fact that someone of his stature has taken an interest in Zhang Yi makes it abundantly clear that hacking into his phone would be a trivial task for him. Suddenly, a troubling thought crosses Zhang Yi's mind. If Lu Fengde can effortlessly breach his phone's security, what about the computer systems at his home? However, he quickly reassures himself that the likelihood of such a breach is low. Like Zhang Yi, Lu Fengde is also confined within Mark Manor, limiting his capabilities to basic operations like hacking a phone. If Lu Fengde had indeed compromised Zhang Yi's home computer systems, there would be no need for him to resort to phone calls and threats. Zhang Yi quickly strategizes and decides to maintain a composed demeanor when dealing with Lu Fengde. In a confident manner, Lu Fengde asserts that since Zhang Yi is capable of supporting two women, he should have no issue supporting him as well. Lu Fengde emphasizes that as long as Zhang Yi provides him with the necessary provisions for survival, he will keep his secret safe. Furthermore, Lu Fengde offers his assistance in safeguarding Zhang Yi's cybersecurity against other hackers. With a smile, Zhang Yi responds to Mr. Lu, expressing his belief that he must be joking. Zhang Yi acknowledges his previous role as a warehouse supervisor, but humbly states that as a minor supervisor, he lacks significant authority. However, Lu Fengde immediately retaliates, warning Zhang Yi not to underestimate him. Lu Fengde claims to have enough experience and knowledge to suspect that Zhang Yi possesses stolen supplies from the warehouse. He even threatens to gather information about Zhang Yi through his phone. Internally seething with anger, Zhang Yi resolves to find a way to bring down this troublesome old man. Zhang Yi realizes that Lu Fengde is no longer surprising, as he can no longer conceal the truth. Reluctantly, Zhang Yi admits to having some supplies, but emphasizes that they are limited due to his constrained living space. Zhang Yi explains that he has already packed and sold the excess supplies. However, Lu Fengde remains indifferent to the quantity and solely focuses on having his needs met. If Zhang Yi refuses to comply, Lu Fengde threatens to expose the information and enlist individuals with special abilities to target him. The consequences of such actions are undoubtedly severe. Zhang Yi, feeling the pressure, realizes that he is facing a formidable opponent this time. Nevertheless, he has firmly decided to confront Lu Fengde once and for all. In agreement, he states, I can provide you with certain provisions, but it is imperative that you maintain utmost secrecy. Upon hearing this, Lu Fengde responds with satisfaction, assuring, rest assured, I am not foolish. Only you and I need to be aware of this arrangement. Currently, I require items such as food, alcohol, cotton socks, and undergarments. Kindly have them delivered to Villa 302 in Mark Manor, and do not attempt any deceitful tactics. If I am not pleased, I will expose the information, and you will face severe consequences. After ending the call, Zhang Yi already has a plan in mind. This Lu Fengde must meet his demise. He enters the living room where Zhu Qier is seated on the couch, taking a large sip of water. He addresses her, saying, Zhu Qier, I need to discuss something with you. When Zhu Qier arrives, Zhang Yi tells her that their position has been uncovered. He briefly explains Lu Fengde's tactics, how Lu Fengde is aware of his large amount of supplies and is therefore blackmailing him. After hearing all this, Zhu Qier realizes that the situation is complex. She thinks for a while and says, I've encountered people like Lu Fengde before. They may not be very smart, but they're very intelligent. Their moral standards are very low, so they can't be real traitors. Zhang Yi is perplexed as to what to do. He wants to kill Lu Fengde, but he's afraid that Lu Fengde has a backup plan, so he's hesitant to act. The thought of being constantly blackmailed if he lets him live is something he can't bear. Zhu Qier says, if this information gets out, it will definitely put you in danger. This complicates the situation. She recalls instances she has heard of where corrupt officials had internet moguls assassinated in order to eliminate evidence, only for the evidence to be leaked online the following day. Zhang Yi has come across similar anecdotes. These outlaws always have a backup plan. They establish a mechanism to automatically disclose confidential information if something were to happen to them. That is why their adversaries hesitate to take action. Zhu Qier, concerned, embraces Zhang Yi and suggests, well, if we cannot currently come up with a viable solution, let's not dwell on it. Allow me to help you unwind. However, Zhang Yi is not in the mood to focus on anything else. As long as this matter remains unresolved, he will feel uneasy. The longer this issue persists, the more detrimental it becomes for them. Just then, Yang Yi enters the room. Zhang Yi believes it is the perfect moment for everyone to gather and discuss a strategic plan. After hearing the entire story, Yang Yi furrows his brow, acknowledging that this is indeed a challenging situation. This is what we refer to as the ease of spreading rumors, while debunking them proves to be difficult. We, in the entertainment industry, utterly detest such behavior. Zhang Yi's excitement suddenly surges. Did you just mention hearsay? Yang Yi appears confused. Yes, isn't spreading information about someone similar to the unethical media spreading rumors about famous individuals? Sitting nearby, Zhu Qier dismissively remarks, in situations like this, even if it's a rumor, people will most likely choose to believe Liu Fengde. Zhang Yi, resting his chin on both hands, ponders quickly. Although Liu Fengde possesses information about me, it's not conclusive evidence. However, if this information becomes public, it will undoubtedly cause me significant trouble. Since I cannot prevent him from disclosing the information, why not create confusion? Let's treat this situation as if it were a rumor. Zhu Qier and Yang Yi gaze at Zhang Yi with curiosity and ask simultaneously, what do you plan to do? Zhang Yi responds with a mysterious smile and begins making preparations. He heads to the control room and contacts Liu Fengde. Zhang Yi impatiently asks, what's the hurry? Do you truly believe I have an abundance of resources? If you didn't have something incriminating on me, I would genuinely desire to book an instant flight for you to Casketania. Liu Fengde couldn't help but burst into laughter on the other end of the line. You think you can eliminate me? You're far too inexperienced for that. If any harm befalls me, your secret will automatically be disseminated to every individual in Heavenly Sea City through their phones. You should carefully consider the repercussions. In that moment, Zhang Yi's mind raced, and he devised a plan. Very well, you win. Stay where you are. I will bring the necessary items. Ending the call, a faint smile crept onto the corner of his mouth. He powered on his computer and proceeded to create numerous threads on the limited remaining forums in Heavenly Sea City, unveiling the enigma of the Walmart warehouse theft. Did Walmart orchestrate its own theft? Was the merchandise relocated back to the country? Where did Walmart's billions of dollars worth of supplies vanish to? Eyewitnesses claim that armed forces emerged that night, engaged in a highly classified operation. The police remain silent on the matter, alongside other captivating news stories. The most effective way to conceal the truth is to bury it amidst a web of falsehoods. The ultimate outcome is that discerning reality from falsehood becomes an impossible task. Consequently, even if Liu Fengde were to disclose the genuine truth, it is only natural that no one would believe him. Zhang Yi has exhausted all possible methods up until this point. Whether or not his efforts will yield success now relies solely on luck. However, one thing remains unequivocal: Liu Fengde's demise is inevitable. Adhering to Liu Fengde's instructions, Zhang Yi discreetly places the meticulously prepared provisions at Liu Fengde's abode. Upon completing these tasks, he leisurely departs from the villa and seeks refuge behind a towering pine tree. With his sniper rifle aimed at the backpack left by the front entrance, he intends to swiftly eliminate Liu Fengde as soon as he emerges to retrieve it. Having divulged his intentions, Zhang Yi sends a text message to Liu Fengde, informing him of the package's location. He then intently surveils the entrance, patiently lurking in the shadows for Liu Fengde's arrival. However, as time elapses, there is no sign of movement at Liu Fengde's front door. Zhang Yi has a feeling that something is not right. Hasn't the elderly man received his message? He reaches for his phone, intending to make a call, but then he hesitates. Making another call or sending a text now would imply that he knows Lu Fengde hasn't collected the package. This would surely raise Lu Fengde's suspicion that Zhang Yi is nearby. Zhang Yi takes a deep breath and decides to wait a little longer. This cunning old man wanted supplies from him despite the risks, so he will eventually show up. Zhang Yi remains in his position, never taking his eyes off the back, silently waiting for the opportunity to strike. Time passes by, and after approximately 15 minutes, the door to Villa 302 slowly opens. First, the barrel of a shotgun emerges, scanning the surroundings for any potential threats. Only then does a cautious elderly man step out. In that moment, Lu Fengde feels triumphant, thinking that he has finally obtained the supplies and that his meticulous planning has not been in vain. Just as he is about to pick up the backpack, a loud gunshot rings out. A bullet pierces Lu Fengde's head, leaving a large hole, causing him to crash against the door and collapse onto the ground. Dead. Witnessing the successful shot, Zhang Yi swiftly rushes over to Villa 302. Upon reaching Lu Fengde, he takes aim at his forehead and unloads several more rounds. "You despicable individual, underestimating my intelligence. It appears that you have grown weary of existence." Following that, Zhang Yi discovers Lu Fengde's computer. Just as he is about to destroy it with his firearm, he hesitates. The elderly man's computer likely contains a plethora of valuable data. With a sudden realization, he decides to transport the computer to an alternate realm, effectively preventing any transmission of information. Taking a deep breath, Zhang Yi contemplates, "Well, this is the most optimal course of action I can take. The man is deceased. The possessions have been acquired. If he had any family, I would extend an invitation for them to join him in the afterlife. Now that this absurdity is concluded, I would prefer to return home and spend time with my two companions, while also continuing my endeavors as an internet provocateur, fabricating false narratives online." Even if information were to leak, Zhang Yi is prepared to audaciously deceive and incriminate others. His objective is to exonerate himself by any means necessary. Stretching his tired muscles, Zhang Yi exits the control room, leaving behind the chaos and tension. Shu Qi, his loyal assistant, approaches him with a worried expression. "Zhang Yi, what have you been occupied with all this time?" she inquires. "I've prepared a nourishing soup for you, made with oxtail and kidney. Please come and have some," she offers, her concern evident in her voice. Taking a seat, Zhang Yi finds himself surrounded by the comforting presence of both Shu Qi and Yang Yi. "Are you feeling exhausted?" Yang Yi asks, her voice filled with genuine care. "Allow me to give you a soothing back massage," she suggests, extending her helping hand. Feeling a sense of contentment, Zhang Yi cherishes the presence of these two remarkable women in his life. He silently hopes that this blissful existence will endure indefinitely. In a casual manner, Zhang Yi inquires, "Did either of you receive any peculiar messages on your mobile phones?" Shu Qi appears perplexed as she responds, "I received a series of incomprehensible messages. I'm unsure of their meaning." Zhang Yi, too, finds the messages perplexing and suspects they may have been intentionally misleading. Taking a sip of his fish soup, he remarks, "They are deliberately designed to confuse. I have released them as a smokescreen." With a determined resolve, Zhang Yi reveals his plan. Starting now, hundreds of similar messages will be disseminated across every forum in Heavenly Sea City and sent to everyone's phones. This is my alternative approach since I couldn't prevent Liu Fengde from sharing the actual information. I intend to conceal the truth with a web of deceit, he declares, his voice filled with conviction. Shu Qi appears uncertain, but wouldn't this action raise further suspicion? Zhang Yi also believes that abruptly bringing up this topic would easily attract attention. Observing a fishbowl, Zhang Yi remains composed as he speaks. Attracting attention is unavoidable. Regardless of whether I send these messages or not, Liu Fengde would certainly have done so. Therefore, by disseminating these deceptive tactics, I can at least create a diversion. The majority of people do not have the time or inclination to distinguish between truth and fiction. They simply desire to be spectators. Zhang Yi's eyes brighten. She looks at Zhang Yi and compliments him, stating that he is truly clever. She gazes at him with admiration, convinced that her judgment was accurate. Zhang Yi is not only handsome but also intelligent. In that moment, Shukir glances at her phone and raises a question. However, these messages were sent from your computer. What if someone traces the IP address? Won't they discover it is you? She is correct. Zhang Yi may have utilized multiple accounts to send the messages, but his IP address is unique. Certain organizations could easily trace it back to him, making him the primary suspect. Zhang Yi maintains a stoic expression as he continues to leisurely consume his soup. Shukir, sensing a change in the atmosphere, quickly apologizes, concerned that she may have been overly worried. She speculates that there are very few individuals remaining in Heavenly Sea City who possess the necessary expertise to conduct a thorough investigation. Our approach is still highly effective, she adds hastily. Zhang Yi, picking up some food with his chopsticks, cryptically remarks that unless this catastrophic snow event regresses civilization back to the Stone Age, it is nearly impossible to completely erase any traces of his actions. I never delude myself into thinking I can deceive everyone entirely, but by taking these precautions, I can at least minimize suspicions from the majority, he explains. He acknowledges that encountering organizations with advanced cyber capabilities is inevitable in the future, and he has prepared himself for such encounters. If it weren't for Lu Feng's intervention, this day would have arrived much later, he reflects. However, this shelter comes with an exorbitant price tag of $1 billion and is reputedly resistant to nuclear strikes. Given that Zhang Yi has an abundant supply of food, his only concern would be facing top-tier armed forces. I smile and glance at Yang Mi. Do not become too complacent, I caution. Even though I have confidence in the shelter's defenses, you will not have idle days ahead of you. Upon hearing these words, Yang Mi's face flushed crimson. Her bashful gaze hinted at the presence of others around us. It was not appropriate to engage in such activities in their presence. I was left speechless, pondering what thoughts constantly occupied her mind. However, considering Yang Mi's innocence, it was understandable since she had been here for a considerable amount of time, without contributing much in other areas. In a playful manner, I lightly tapped her head and remarked, I was referring to setting traps. Holding her head with an innocent expression, Yang Mi responded, but we don't know how to set traps. I stood up and extended my arms, emphasizing the point. While this house boasted exceptional defenses, it seemed to lack countermeasures against human threats. Our shelter was severely lacking in defensive weaponry. Therefore, my plan was to strategically place a network of traps around the shelter. If anyone dared to target me, they would find themselves on a one-way trip. Upon hearing this, both women instantly became energized. Since the arrival of Yang Mi, Zhu Qir has gradually developed a heightened sense of security. They both nodded eagerly, competing to assure each other. They expressed their willingness to do whatever it takes to ensure your safety. Yang Mi added that although she may not fully understand traps, she will do her utmost best. Without hesitation, I stood up and retrieved a substantial amount of equipment from another dimension. The majority of it consisted of items such as steel nails and animal traps. I picked up a steel nail and proceeded to provide them with instructions on its usage, emphasizing the importance of remembering the layout of the traps. Zhu Qir and Yang Mi became aware of the imminent danger and paid close attention during the lessons. I explained that simply scattering nails on the snow would not be effective in piercing anyone. To demonstrate, I took out a wooden board and nailed a spike onto it. This method would puncture the foot as opposed to the smooth surface of steel nails. They can be effortlessly extracted. I then presented a container of screws. When combined with these screw threads, their removal becomes significantly more challenging, resulting in greater damage. It is imperative that we strategically place at least 1,000 of these spike traps around the villa, eliminating any blind spots. I proceeded to pick up an animal trap, recognizing its effectiveness. In this inclement weather, if someone were to become ensnared in it, their fate would be sealed. I meticulously provided detailed instructions on trap placement techniques and how to maximize their destructive potential. Following my guidance, the two women promptly began crafting numerous spikeboard traps with enthusiasm. I, too, remained active. Positioned by the window, I familiarized myself with the surrounding terrain. There were two crucial pathways leading to our villa. It was at this moment that I recalled the two landmines I had retrieved from the weapon storage, which could be strategically positioned at those access points. These detonation landmines had the capability to instantly obliterate tanks and armored vehicles. If triggered by a person, they would be reduced to mere fragments. Mentally noting the need for caution, I reminded myself to avoid these mines when venturing outside in the future. However, it was evident that these spike-board traps had limited effectiveness and could be easily deciphered by an adversary. I needed to devise a method to ensure that anyone who approached would not escape unscathed. A considerable number of spike boards were swiftly prepared, with Yeonmi enduring blisters on her hands without uttering a single complaint. She comprehended that her abilities paled in comparison to those of Shu Kier, a skilled doctor, and was determined to demonstrate her own value. I expressed my gratitude for her dedication. Subsequently, we relocated outdoors, where I personally provided a demonstration on how to set up the traps, emphasizing the crucial aspect of proper placement depth. Due to the continuous snowfall, it was imperative that the traps were not buried excessively deep or too shallow. I then proceeded to identify vital pathways, utilizing a military shovel to excavate a deep pit and meticulously concealed a landmine within it, covering it with accumulated snow. With a bit more snowfall, the trap would become virtually indiscernible. The subsequent step involved countering any potential devices or tools that the enemy might employ to clear the traps. I devised a brilliant plan, connecting the pins of hand grenades with steel wires and discreetly positioning them beneath the snow. If anyone were to stumble upon them, the steel wire would initiate a chain explosion. This should serve as a substantial deterrent unless the enemy possesses the training of a well-prepared military unit. Approaching the shelter would prove to be an arduous undertaking. Even if one managed to surpass the exterior obstacles, there exists a formidable defense corridor spanning over a distance of more than 10 meters within the shelter, instilling a sense of assurance within me. Moreover, I possessed a hidden advantage: my exceptional spatial ability. Upon re-entering the premises, Yang Mi displayed eagerness and posed the question, "Zhang Yi, when do you anticipate the arrival of our adversaries?" I gazed at her, taken aback. I would prefer if these traps were merely for display, but judging by her enthusiasm, it appears that she is genuinely anticipating an attack. However, I do not believe that such an event will occur in the near future. After all, it has been an extensive period of time since the commencement of the apocalypse. If individuals are able to maintain their own territories and survive, that in itself is already a remarkable accomplishment, unless it becomes absolutely imperative. No one would willingly initiate an assault on others. After all, anyone who has managed to endure until now possesses a level of resilience that should not be underestimated. Yang Mi pondered, her chin resting in her hand, torn between her desire for someone to fall into her traps and her longing for the continued safety of their current environment. Lost in her thoughts, she was abruptly startled by a piercing noise. She turned to find Shangyi using a welder to install additional bolts on a door in the corridor. Intrigued, she approached him and inquired, "What are you doing? Aren't these thick metal doors secure enough?" The recent incident involving Lu Fengde had made Shangyi more cautious. As he worked, he explained that all the facilities in the villa were controlled by computers, leaving them vulnerable to hacking. To ensure complete safety, he was adding these bolts. Upon completing his task, Shangyi emphasized, even if someone manages to breach the corridor, they won't be able to quickly pass through these doors. It's always better to err on the side of caution. Yang Mi gazed at the meticulous Shangyi with admiration. Despite his methods appearing excessive, she believed that he would undoubtedly outlast most. Now reassured by their fortified setup, Shangyi's only lingering concern was cybersecurity. He whispered under his breath, "If only we had a skilled cyber expert by our side, we would be completely protected." Upon hearing this, a sorrowful expression appeared on Yang Mi's face. Yang Xingxin was quite talented in that field. "It's a pity." Before Yang Mi could finish her sentence, Karen interrupted her. "Yang Xingxin? Is she still alive?" Yang Xingxin had always been fragile. Her legs were paralyzed due to childhood polio. However, her mind was exceptional, especially when it came to computers. By the age of 16, she had won numerous international computer awards and was regarded as a top-notch hacker. As Shangyi listened to Karen's account, he couldn't help but feel nostalgic. If they could locate Yang Xingxin, everything would fall into place. Yang Mi shook her head. "I lost touch with Yang Xingxin a long time ago, especially after the snow disaster. I fear the worst. Zhang Yi teasingly remarked, maybe she simply didn't want to deal with you. After all, besides being attractive, you don't offer much. Yang Mi, bewildered, playfully punched Zhang Yi in the chest and exclaimed, Zhang Yi, you're terrible. Zhang Yi felt a hint of remorse. If this individual named Yang Xingsun were still alive and had the opportunity to join their group, specifically his harem group, it would be an exceptional decision. Considering the attractive appearance of the two sisters, it is highly likely that the younger sibling would possess the same level of beauty. Now, all that remained was to patiently wait. Following the encounter with Liu Fengge, it was expected that he would take precautionary measures. Consequently, he arranged for a pre-planned program. A text message was sent to every individual in Heavenly Sea City, but my clever diversion successfully overshadowed this message. It went unnoticed, without causing any disturbance. Furthermore, the content of Liu Fengge's text message merely disclosed my identity and address, along with the possibility of possessing stolen merchandise from the Walmart warehouse, albeit in substantial quantities. However, it is important to note that substantial quantities does not imply the entirety of it. This vague expression lacks a precise quantitative standard. After all, how could he possibly be aware of my spatial abilities? Moreover, I have dispatched numerous fabricated messages, making it exceedingly difficult for ordinary individuals to distinguish the truth. If someone does manage to locate me, they will not be just any ordinary group, but rather a group consisting of top-notch computer experts. I have been diligently honing my skills with the bow and arrow, dedicating myself to training for almost 2 weeks. As a result, I have noticed a significant improvement in my spatial awareness, which has led to the emergence of some extraordinary capabilities. This newfound ability allows me to infuse weapons and projectiles with enhanced power and precision. Remarkably, I can now strike a target located 400 meters away with a single arrow. This accomplishment sparked a thought in my mind. What if I were to apply this ability to close-quarters combat weapons or even to my own body? To my surprise, the outcomes were highly favorable. By enveloping my body with this ability, I experienced a substantial reduction in air resistance, resulting in a manifold increase in my speed. Consequently, my agility and evasive maneuvers have improved significantly, enabling me to escape dangerous situations with greater ease. I have grown quite fond of these newfound abilities, as they possess seemingly limitless potential for further development. It is as if I have only scratched the surface of a vast iceberg, and I can't help but imagine the immense power that could be unleashed once fully mastered. However, my train of thought was abruptly interrupted by the growling of my stomach. Without delay, I retrieved 2 chocolate bars and hastily devoured them, realizing that this ability consumes a considerable amount of energy. After all, power is derived from the very cells within our bodies. In order to maintain my strength, it is imperative that I replenish myself with nourishment. This implies that the strength of a mutant is directly proportional to the amount of food they consume. Regardless of how formidable an opponent's abilities may be, they are rendered useless without sustenance. Contemplating the limitless provisions within my own domain, it appears that I am impervious, or at the very least, I can exhaust them with my boundless supplies. Meanwhile, deep within an underground shelter, Chinchinyan, the esteemed leader of the West Mountain Organization, finds himself preoccupied with the energy predicament plaguing their base. Just as he ponders this, the Secretary Guru enters the room, carrying a pile of confidential documents, and utters slowly, "The information we received earlier has been thoroughly investigated. All the messages originate from Heron's River District, specifically Lark Manor, with the majority originating from Villa 101. However, one message stands out from the rest. It was sent from the mobile phone of Liu Fengge, the chairman of the Intelligent Cloud Group. His residence is located in Villa 302, within Lark Manor." Chinchinyan carefully receives the report and contemplates for a brief moment. "Kindly provide me with an elaborate report regarding Zhang Yi, who was mentioned in the aforementioned document. I am curious to know what kind of trouble a mere warehouse manager can cause."
Please to channel my Sakrapara.
Secretary Guru diligently presents Zhang Yi's information to Chinchinyan after discovering that he is merely a low-ranking warehouse manager. Chinchinyan's expression immediately turns disinterested, perceiving him as nothing more than a petty thief. It is highly likely that he has been misappropriating funds through his position and has likely accumulated a significant amount of stolen goods thus far. However, even if this matter is somewhat connected to him, the quantity of goods in his possession cannot be substantial. This individual is certainly not the mastermind behind the warehouse death case. Without delay, Guru begins to flatter Chinchinyan. The leader is absolutely correct. How could someone of such insignificance possess such capabilities? Chinchinyan responds with a slight smile, displaying a discerning gaze. This must be a plot orchestrated by foreign forces. They must have received prior intelligence and consequently removed the materials beforehand. Subsequently, finding themselves unable to provide a valid explanation, they orchestrated these self-directed theatrical performances. Guru persistently continued to flatter. The astuteness of the leader's judgment is truly remarkable. How could these petty schemes ever deceive the discerning eye of the leader? Therefore, should I delve into the background of this Zhang Yi? Chinchinyan contemplated for a brief moment. We have yet to investigate the Herons River district area. Dispatch a few individuals to conduct a thorough search. Perhaps we will uncover some clues pertaining to that particular batch of materials. Following our last confrontation, the villagers began to question his abilities. Chunlei himself was profoundly affected by this. He believed he was the chosen one in the narrative, possessing unparalleled skills, destined to attain the zenith of life by establishing a harem. However, he never fathomed that he would be so susceptible. The vulnerable Chunlei gradually descended into decadence, indulging himself 5 or 6 times a day, while incessantly complaining about the world with his phone in hand. One day, out of sheer boredom, as he perused his phone, he noticed an abnormal influx of fabricated messages he had received several days prior. He vaguely sensed that this might be connected to the enigmatic individual who had frightened him on that fateful day. Being an otaku, Chunlei possessed some computer-related tricks up his sleeve. He swiftly detected something suspicious in the messages. The IP information source grabbed his attention. Zhang Yi, the manager of Walmart's warehouse, was involved in a case of theft. This news had gained significant attention just before the apocalypse. Chunlei had always believed it to be a stage drama, but now it appeared to have some basis. Did Zhang Yi truly manage to empty the entire Walmart warehouse on his own? Chunlei's excitement surged suddenly. The imaginations of otaku are naturally boundless, and as a mutant himself, everything became comprehensible. This individual named Zhang Yi might have awakened a spatial domain ability akin to a limitless vacuum cleaner capable of absorbing vast quantities of objects. The ice and snow under his control vanished before him that day, only to be released later. It was not a mere counterattack, it seemed as though my own attack had been transported to another realm and then unleashed in the opposite direction. Chunlei had a sudden realization at this particular moment. He came to the conclusion that he might possess extraordinary spatial abilities. It dawned on him that the stolen merchandise from the Walmart warehouse could potentially be hidden in his alternate space. This explained why he possessed a luxurious snowmobile, a rare sight in the southern region. As he pondered over this revelation, Chunlei felt a significant blow to his self-esteem. He couldn't help but feel envious of his newfound abilities, realizing that his own powers were far inferior in comparison. He questioned whether he was merely a weak antagonist, while Chunlei himself was the true protagonist. Would he end up being nothing more than a pawn in Chunlei's experiences? This realization greatly affected Chunlei's mood. His ice and snow powers seemed feeble in comparison to the rare abilities possessed by Zhang Yi, and they were easily countered by him. It became evident that Chunlei was nothing more than a small and insignificant individual destined to be overshadowed by Zhang Yi's strength. In that moment, an idea struck Chunlei. Since he couldn't defeat Zhang Yi, he decided to align himself with him instead. This way, he could still play a role as a secondary character. With this thought in mind, Chunlei swiftly got out of bed. His first priority was to warn the villagers. He needed to caution them against provoking Zhang Yi, as there were far too many foolishly fearless individuals in the village. Chunlei hurriedly ran to the residence of the village chief, Sudongshan. Gasping for breath, he urgently called out, "Third Grandpa, I have something of great importance to report to you." In the past, the village chief paid little attention to someone like Chunlei. However, ever since Chun Lei awakened his ice and snow abilities, becoming the strongest fighter in the village, the chief had to show him some respect. Chun Lei wasted no time in sharing all the information he had with the chief. "We are no match for Zhang Yi. Lark Manor is dangerously close to us. I suggest we warn the villagers to stay away from that area and refrain from fishing there as well." However, the village chief seemed unfazed by these warnings, more intrigued by a particular piece of news. He looked at Chun Lei with wise eyes and asked, "Are you implying that the infamous Walmart warehouse theft case before the apocalypse was committed by that individual? And all those billions worth of goods are in his possession?" Chun Lei nodded repeatedly. "It is highly likely that he has awakened his spatial ability and cunningly stashed all the goods in his alternate space." Upon hearing this, Sudangshan's eyes sparkled with excitement. He muttered to himself, contemplating the idea that if they were able to acquire those goods, their Su family town would never have to worry about food again. Chun Lei was taken aback by Sudangshan's words. "We really shouldn't be coveting his goods," he said. However, Sudangshan looked down upon him, expressing his disdain. "You're too timid," he remarked. "Our village is home to thousands of people. Are we truly afraid of one young boy?" Chun Lei was left speechless for a moment. The chief then continued, deep in thought, and insulted him by calling him coward who feared death. "When I was young, we fought with neighboring villages over water and land. Didn't we always end up bloodied? Now, in these critical times for our Su family town, even if it costs a few lives, so be it," he declared. Chun Lei felt extremely frustrated. His good intentions had backfired. Meanwhile, in Lark Manor, I indulged in the taste of a newly opened 1982 law fight with two sisters. If it weren't for the dangers lurking outside, life in this villa would be like paradise. Even Yang Mi, who had always dreamed of escaping the Afghanistan apocalypse, found herself gradually becoming immersed in this blissful existence, unable to free herself. At that very moment, an ear-piercing shriek from the outside shattered the serenity that enveloped the surroundings. In an instant, I sprang to my feet, my mind racing with the possibility of an imminent attack. A sense of unease washed over me, compelling me to make my way towards the balcony on the second floor. Equipped with my trusty infrared binoculars, I meticulously surveyed the vicinity of the villa. To my dismay, I observed a sizable congregation of shadowy figures converging upon our sanctuary. It became evident to me that these individuals were none other than the villagers hailing from the Su clan residing across the river. Given the recent incident that had occurred a mere 2 days ago, it was only logical to deduce that these impulsive individuals had rushed over without conducting a thorough investigation. Determined to protect my haven, I retrieved a sniper rifle from my concealed storage space. Their blatant disregard for their own safety only fueled my resolve to meet their aggression head-on. It was abundantly clear that their intentions were far from noble. Anyone who dared disrupt the tranquility of my existence deserved nothing short of death. However, I couldn't help but acknowledge that these ordinary villagers posed little threat. My primary concern lay with their mutant counterpart. If he were to accompany them, I would seize the opportunity to eliminate him as well. With a discerning eye, I meticulously scanned the crowd, allowing the others to unwittingly test the might of my strategically placed traps. In the meantime, the advance team of the Su family town had arrived at the outskirts of the concealed snares. As they gazed upon the brilliantly illuminated mansion not too far in the distance, it seemed almost surreal. Having endured the frozen catastrophe, they had managed to survive by relying on stored provisions and fishing. How could they have fathomed that just across the river, in the opulent district, someone was leading such a luxurious existence? Lost in thought, one of the villagers took a step forward, only to be suddenly engulfed in excruciating pain, letting out a piercing scream. The group swiftly turned their attention towards him and discovered that he had inadvertently stepped on a concealed board, with its sharp nails penetrating his foot. In such frigid temperatures, such an injury could prove fatal. The team leader promptly ordered for him to be carried away, cautioning the others to remain vigilant of potential traps. Upon receiving the news, the village chief, who was overseeing the operation from the rear, immediately issued instructions. It appeared that the opposing party had made preparations in advance. However, this did not deter Subelmjan. He directed the team to cautiously proceed forward, using branches and sticks to probe the path ahead. From a distance, I observed all of this, finding amusement in their resourcefulness. The show had just begun its spectacle. In fact, they successfully navigated through numerous nail traps, gradually closing in on their target. Witnessing the village chief skillfully counter the initial wave of traps, the villagers gained confidence and started to lower their guard. However, at that very moment, someone felt a sudden resistance near their foot. As if they had stumbled upon a hidden rope, a split second later, a fireball erupted into the sky. The resulting explosion reverberated through the heavens, instantly hurling a dozen individuals away. Overwhelmed by fear, the villagers retreated, but some had not gone far when they were struck with intense pain in their chests and faces. Upon inspecting their clothing, they realized they had narrowly escaped the explosion, but not the shrapnel that had been propelled into the air. The injured villagers panicked, collapsing to the ground, writhing in agony and screaming for help. The team descended into chaos. Suddenly, another deafening blast occurred as someone inadvertently triggered a grenade trap. The villagers were consumed by terror, desperately scrambling backwards. However, the snowy ground still concealed numerous nail traps. In the midst of darkness, everyone was in a state of disarray. The villagers found themselves disoriented, surrounded by a gruesome scene filled with wails and drenched in blood. Following the initial assault, the villagers suffered significant losses as they encountered a relentless onslaught of nail traps and explosions, transforming the area into a horrifying spectacle. Overwhelmed and humiliated, some villagers began to retreat, realizing the gravity of the situation. It was then that they decided to seek the assistance of Chun Lai, a remarkable individual capable of manipulating ice and snow, making him an invaluable asset in these icy conditions. Gathering around their village chief, they urgently implored Chun Lai for help, desperate to prevent further casualties. Su Dongshin's expression turned somber as he recalled how he had disregarded Chun Lai's warning earlier in the day about provoking Zhang Yi and how he had berated Chun Lai for his perceived cowardice. However, now faced with the bewildering aftermath of the initial attack, Su Dongshin couldn't help but question his own judgment. Meanwhile, I silently observed the unfolding chaos, armed with a sniper rifle, wondering why the ice and snow mutant had yet to make a move, despite the abundance of people present. I couldn't discern which individual was the anomaly. The residents were situated less than 200 meters away from my position, making it effortless to eliminate them. Even if the mutant were to launch a surprise attack from behind, as long as they remained within a 2,000-meter radius, I could still snipe them. Su Dongshin found himself in a difficult predicament. However, seeking assistance from Chun Lai was completely out of the question. He had already boasted in front of Chun Lai, asserting that he could bring down Zhang Yi without any aid. Furthermore, it was inconceivable for him to ask his grandson for help. Su Dongshin compassed himself and sternly questioned, "Are we truly rendered useless without Chun Lai? Haven't we set traps in the mountains during our youth? These rudimentary traps are only effective for deceiving wild boars. His residence was just ahead. The monk may flee, but the temple cannot." In order to preserve his own pride, Su Dongshin opted to confront the situation head-on. He then handed a pair of binoculars to a villager, instructing them to thoroughly observe the contents of the villa. Upon witnessing the scene within the villa, the villagers were astounded. The brilliantly illuminated house, the dining table adorned with steaming delicacies, the opulent furnishings, and two ethereal women leisurely indulging in their meal. The villagers were enticed, yet still cautious. Despite the fact that the snowy terrain was riddled with hidden dangers, they found it preferable to summon Chun Lai. With Chun Lai's exceptional skills, a mere exertion would unveil all the concealed traps in the snow. Upon hearing this, the village chief grew enraged. It appeared that, apart from Chun Lai, our village was teeming with individuals lacking courage. If fear has taken hold of you, then it would be wise to retreat to your homes at once. Spare yourselves the embarrassment of remaining here. This clever manipulation of reverse psychology yielded remarkable results. The villagers' spirits ignited, and they vehemently proclaimed their lack of cowardice. They took hold of their tools and persisted in clearing the traps. Witnessing this, Su Dongshin nodded with contentment. That's the spirit. These trivial traps are nothing to fear. With a modicum of caution, they pose no harm. In the wake of village chief Su Dongshin's provocation, the villagers valiantly pressed on with their task of clearing the traps. They rapidly became more intelligent. They commenced hurling snow blocks in advance from a considerable distance, undoubtedly triggering numerous snares. This significantly bolstered their self-assurance. Merely 100 meters further, and all the provisions and wonders within will be under our possession. Su Dongshin also displayed a conceited grin. I previously informed you that these juvenile snares are inconsequential. Shotgun team, maintain your pace. They must have become aware of our presence. Chun Lai mentioned that they possess firearms. If they dare to shoot, we will retaliate immediately. The chief's cousin, a retired soldier, eagerly volunteered. If that individual reveals himself, I will obliterate his cranium. I observed all of this through the scope, contemplating that they were not entirely foolish. This technique of eliminating snares, indeed, had not crossed my mind. However, the true spectacle was yet to unfold. Primitive methods can solely eradicate primitive snares. The forthcoming cutting-edge ones should present them with a genuine challenge. Yang Mi, who had just finished her meal, became frantic upon witnessing this predicament, as there are an abundance of individuals. If they manage to infiltrate, our fate is sealed. Shu Kier, however, embodied Kong's persona. I can't help but wonder how many lives will be lost this time, she remarked, taking the opportunity to taunt the terrified Yang Mi. Look at you. With such feeble courage, how do you expect to ever measure up to our brother, Zhang, in the future? The countless corpses and rivers of blood left in Zhang Yi's wake were merely a glimpse of the horror that awaited Shu Kier. As they approached within my reach, I promptly activated the noise-canceling feature of the villa. The clamor from outside seemed to vanish instantly. Without hesitation, I pressed the button to trigger the landmines. A deafening explosion reverberated through the road, illuminating the entire villa area as if it were daytime. Although I couldn't hear the screams outside, the gruesome scene was vividly displayed before my eyes. Limbs and blood were strewn everywhere. Yang Mi, unaccustomed to such brutality due to her life of luxury, immediately broke into a cold sweat and began violently vomiting against the table. Even Shu Kier, who had witnessed much in her life, turned away, unable to bear the horrifying sight. Observing this, I experienced no ripples in my heart. In the end, they brought this upon themselves. The elders, who were commanding from the rear, were left in a state of shock. Their minds were completely blank, unable to accept the harsh reality unfolding before them. How could this even be possible? A man, mentally disturbed by the explosion, rushed over and clutched onto the leg of the village chief. Trembling, he began to speak. "Third Grandpa, everyone is dead. Their bodies have been torn apart. We must flee." The village chief, taken aback by the horrifying scene, collapsed to the ground. Is he some sort of devil? We only intended to steal his possessions and take his wife. How could he have killed hundreds of our Sioux family? So many lives lost. As the village chief and the one who instigated this, he knew he couldn't escape the weight of responsibility. Overwhelmed, he knelt down in the snow, muttering incoherently. I witnessed all of this from the safety of the shelter. I overheard whispers in the icy surroundings, suggesting that there was no need to spare these individuals. I retrieved a compound bow and equipped myself with cold weather gear. Then, I commanded the shelter's AI system. The front window was opened upon command, and the massive bulletproof glass window ascended slowly. I proceeded to string 3 arrows, having honed my skill in shooting multiple arrows simultaneously through rigorous training spanning over 10 days. Empowered by my heightened spatial ability, I embarked on a ruthless pursuit from the shadows as the arrows soared through the air. 3 unsuspecting villagers met their demise instantaneously as the arrows pierced through their heads. The already formidable modern compound bow, amplified by my ability, became an even deadlier weapon. The soundless arrows claimed one life after another, while the panicked crowd remained oblivious to the haunting presence. Eventually, someone became aware and alerted the villagers, exclaiming the presence of a hunter. The villagers, armed with shotguns, hastily aimed in the darkness but struggled to ascertain the direction. In contrast, I possessed the ability to precisely aim using my infrared tactical scope. Upon spotting an individual with a firearm, I mercilessly prioritized hunting them down. The villagers were perplexed, unaware that the safety of the shelter lay nearly 200 meters away amidst the relentless onslaught of heavy wind and snow. How could any bow possibly possess such incredible range and force? Witnessing the villagers succumb one by one, Su Doncheng was overwhelmed with remorse. Reflecting on Chunla's earlier counsel, he came to realize the extent of his own arrogance and conceit. In an act of self-punishment, he vehemently struck his own face. I am truly deserving of death. I have failed the ancestors of the Su family. I observed this scene through the scope, contemplating whether I should fulfill his wish. Preparing to take him down with my crossbow, a sudden and ferocious snowstorm materialized, swiftly forming a tornado that obstructed the path between the villagers and safety. Stowing away my bow and arrow, I pondered why it had chosen this moment to arrive. As the ice and snow mutant finally decided to intervene, I promptly switched to a sniper rifle, recognizing that arrows would prove ineffective in such a tempest. Being a mutant himself, Chunla possessed a profound understanding of the distance between the villagers and Zhang Yi. Upon hearing the resounding explosion, the timid Chunla summoned his courage and approached. He exerted all his might to manipulate the snow, obstructing the shelter's line of sight. While urgently urging the villagers to flee, he cried out, "Run, run! I cannot maintain this for much longer." In the shelter, observing the situation, I decided to refrain from shooting. The limited visibility would only result in wasted bullets, especially considering the scarcity of ammunition in the alternate storage. Sustaining such a massive blizzard must be incredibly draining, and with a kilometer to cross back over the river, I doubted he could endure for much longer. With this in mind, I gathered various protective gear from the alternate storage and armed myself. I descended the stairs to bid farewell to my two wives, instructing them to take a bath and wait for my return. Witnessing the resolute Zhang Yi, Yang Yi felt a profound sense of security. Meanwhile, Chunla continued to struggle in maintaining the blizzard. Upon realizing that the gunfire had ceased, he secretly rejoiced, believing his strategy had succeeded. However, his satisfaction was short-lived, as the deafening sound of an engine reverberated through the air. Everyone heard it, the unmistakable sound of an engine. Suddenly, a snow SUV emerged from the snow. I activated the auto drive and retrieved an assault rifle, prepared to engage in indiscriminate firing. The villagers let out cries of fear and panic. Chunla, the dreaded mutant, was approaching. Utilized the blizzard to halt his advance. I shifted my gaze towards the sound of the voice, attempting to locate Chunla amidst the chaotic crowd. Soon enough, my attention was drawn to a plump figure. While everyone else was running in a frenzy, he occasionally glanced back and gestured towards me. It was unmistakably him. Suddenly, a deafening gunshot echoed through the air, narrowly missing Chunla's head. Overwhelmed with terror, Chunla broke into a cold sweat and hastily jumped onto a makeshift sled. "Chunla, get in!" I called out. I sat in the car, contemplating for a brief moment, realizing that this was the perfect opportunity to eliminate the opposing mutant. I had no reason to spare him. With this determination in mind, I revved up the engine once again and pursued him relentlessly. However, Chunla continued to conjure a blizzard, enveloping himself and the surroundings, shielding them from harm. Yet, his blizzard only served to impair my vision, unable to protect everyone within its limited range. Frustrated, I swiftly redirected my aim and began firing at the terrified villagers, who were now in a state of utter panic. Chunla witnessed the tragic downfall of the villagers, causing him immense anguish, yet he found himself incapable of rescuing everyone while ensuring his own safety. As I observed this distressing scene, a wicked grin spread across my face, curious to see whether he prioritized his own life or the lives of his fellow villagers. In my relentless pursuit, the villagers' dog sled was no match for my opulent snow SUV, especially as they struggled to drag the bodies of their loved ones, intending to give them a proper burial, which significantly impeded their progress. It was at that moment when Chunla recognized the predicament and urgently instructed the villagers to abandon the bodies. Reluctantly, they complied, understanding that in this dire situation, they had no other choice. Although these bodies slightly hindered my pursuit, it posed no significant obstacle. The advanced obstacle avoidance system of my auto drive functioned admirably, only minimally impacting my accuracy. Despite the fact that my shots were consistently accurate, the military sniper rifle, enhanced by my unique skills, possessed an immense level of power, capable of penetrating 2 heads with a single bullet. Witnessing the villagers succumb to their fate was a torment for Chunla. Each person looked at him with desperate and hopeful eyes, relying solely on him. In a moment of almost despair, Chunla experienced a sudden burst of inspiration. A radiant blue light emanated from his eyes and palm as he focused his thoughts. Miraculously, a crack materialized in the icy path ahead of my pursuit. With Chunla's unwavering determination, the crack widened, temporarily obstructing my progress. Leaning out of the car window, I observed the crack extending for several meters, effectively blocking my way. Standing on the car roof, a shiver ran down my spine as I contemplated the mutant's ability to fracture such thick ice. Fortunately, his power seemed insufficient to completely shatter it, preventing me from plunging into the river with my vehicle. I discharged a few more shots at random, eliminating a few more villagers until the crowd vanished from my scope. I let out a deep sigh, coming to the realization that engaging in a battle with him on the icy terrain was no longer a viable option. The power to manipulate ice and snow during this ice age was beyond my imagination. I had no choice but to utilize the alternate space to jot down the coordinates for the snowmobile and make my way back to the shelter. The traps had suffered significant damage and required reinstallation, but considering the number of invaders we had managed to eliminate, it wasn't a major setback. Upon returning home, Yang Mi was still recovering from the horrifying ordeal evident from her weakened state and the fact that she had vomited her meal. Joe Kyer expressed concern, asking if I had successfully dealt with the mutant. Seated on the sofa, I responded, albeit not in a hushed tone, stating that the individual was incredibly elusive. I could barely catch a glimpse of him. His ability to escape was revolting, making it challenging to eliminate him. However, my cautiousness played a significant role in allowing him to slip away. In that moment, Yang Mi, with a feeble voice, questioned, "Johnny, aren't we being too cruel? Killing is a crime. Aren't you afraid of facing consequences after the apocalypse?" I gently touched Yang Mi's cheek, not fully committed to my response, and asked for her opinion. Meanwhile, having just arrived home, I found myself feeling slightly hungry. I requested Joe Kyer to prepare a meal, specifically asking for pit brain, duck gizzards, and large intestines. As soon as Yang Mi heard the names of these dishes and recollected the gruesome scene, she began to uncontrollably vomit once again. I playfully teased her. "Are you feeling physically weak? Are you in need of some nourishing food tonight to replenish your body?" Following the tumultuous return to their village, a sense of terror engulfed everyone. The expectation was for the heroes to come back triumphant, laden with treasures. However, the reality was a disheveled retreat, with almost half of the villagers missing. Despair echoed through the air as some frantically searched for their husbands while others sought their sons. The survivors and the grieving were consumed by profound sorrow. In the midst of the chaos, Chunla found himself standing in the midst of a snowstorm, unsure of what to do. Suddenly, his cousin urgently grabbed his arm and exclaimed, "Hurry, go check on Third Grandpa. He seems to be in a critical condition and wishes to see you." Upon hearing that his beloved Su Dongxing was in a dire state, Chunla's heart skipped a beat and he immediately sprinted towards his grandfather's house. As he reached Su Dongxing's door, he was met with a crowd of concerned individuals. All the villagers gazed at Chunla with a mixture of emotions. While the survivors acknowledged that Chunla had saved them, others did not share the same sentiment. Their expressions lacked gratitude and instead displayed blame and even disgust. A woman, wiping away her tears, bitterly remarked, "Out of all the Su family members, only you are fortunate enough to possess extraordinary powers. But why didn't you intervene from the beginning? It was because of you that my son lost his life." Some even openly cursed him, demanding, "You coward, give me back my husband's life." Chunla, feeling helpless, responded in a subdued voice, "I didn't ask them to go. They didn't listen to my advice and insisted on proceeding." This response only fueled the villagers' anger as they pointed accusatory fingers at him. "You coward. If you had taken charge from the start and utilized your special abilities, we wouldn't have been subjected to such a deadly attack." Although infuriated, Chunla was accustomed to being timid in the village and did not dare to retort in front of the family elders. Just then, a wise elder emerged from the house and suggested, "Let's refrain from saying too much. This is not Chunla's fault. Come inside, the elder is requesting your presence." In that moment, Su Dongxing lay on the bed, barely clinging to life. Upon the arrival of Chunla, Su Dongxing's face was filled with guilt as he spoke. He admitted that it was his fault and expressed regret for not heeding Chunla's advice, which resulted in the deaths of many Su family members. Su Dongxing realized that the village was able to withstand the snow disaster solely because of Chunla's abilities. However, this realization came too late. Su Dongxing held Chunla's hand and took responsibility for the operation, assuring him that he had explained the situation to the rest of the family. He urged Chunla not to hold grudges against the villagers, despite the rumors circulating about him. Su Dongxing emphasized the importance of unity within the Su family and pleaded with Chunla to protect the family. Tears streamed down Su Dongxing's face as he made his final request before his passing. Chunla, with tears in his eyes, nodded in agreement. After Su Dongxing's demise, Chunla informed the people waiting outside and quietly left the house unnoticed. After receiving his third grandfather's final request, Chunla walked back home with a peculiar sensation in his heart. He was aware that if Shan truly intended to harm them, he had no other option but to escape. He had believed himself to be the chosen one, only to discover that he was merely a pawn and a sacrifice. As he approached his house with dejection, he noticed a young lady waiting at his doorstep. Spotting Chunla, the girl hurriedly approached him. "Are you brother Chunla?" Chunla's face flushed and he stuttered, "Yes, that would be me. Who might you be?" The girl's eyes brimmed with gratitude as she replied, "I'm Su Lily. I have come to express my gratitude for saving my father. He informed me that you risked your life to rescue him today." Chunla, unsure of how to respond, scratched the back of his head and modestly said, "It was nothing. It was my duty." It was at that moment that Chunla realized he was not just an ordinary individual, but a true hero of the village. Su Lily lowered her gaze and softly spoke, shyly, "My father is still injured and unable to come personally. Therefore, he requested me to convey his gratitude to you in person. Unfortunately, we did not have anything to offer as a gift, so I have come empty-handed." Chunla waved his hand dismissively and said, shyly, "It is not necessary. Your presence and kind words are more than enough. Please refrain from being overly formal. We are all part of the Su family, after all. I will certainly lend a hand if I am able to." Following a brief exchange of pleasantries, Su Lily turned and vanished into the snowy landscape. In that very moment, Chunla found himself unable to calm his racing heart. He realized that he had fallen deeply in love with Su Lily, even going so far as to contemplate names for their future children. This self-proclaimed otaku, who had vowed to never be captivated by a woman from the real world, had effortlessly betrayed his own principles. With a determined expression, Chunla clenched his fists, vowing to protect the villagers of the Su family and create a stable environment for Su Lily and their unborn child. Upon returning home, Chunla had to devise a plan. 2 encounters with Shan Yi had made him acutely aware of the terrifying nature of this individual. However, he had made a promise to his grandfather to safeguard the village. Now, with love in his life, he couldn't allow this demon to ruin his happiness. Yet, he feared that Shan Yi might unleash his wrath and attempt to annihilate the village. How should Chunla handle this situation? Engaging in a direct confrontation would undoubtedly result in his immediate defeat. After careful consideration, he came to the conclusion that the only definitive way to resolve this situation was through negotiation. Filled with excitement, despite the risks involved, he was determined to take a chance and confront the Su family. With his heart set on Su Lily, he eagerly began searching for Shan Yi's contact information on his computer, daydreaming about the possibility that Su Lily might have feelings for him. After all, he had saved her father's life. Drawing inspiration from TV drama plots, he believed that she must secretly have a crush on him. The following morning, he cautiously stepped outside, repairing the damage caused by traps, convinced that the Su family would not dare to launch another attack. Nevertheless, he remained prepared for a potential second wave of enemies. While ordinary people posed little threat to his shelter, he had to remain vigilant against awakened mutants. Reflecting on the ice and snow mutant, he couldn't help but admire him to some extent, as their approaches to life were quite similar, both cautious and mindful of their own well-being. However, due to the fact that I couldn't utilize him for my personal agenda, I had to exercise caution in order to preemptively eliminate him. Shoker has shown unwavering loyalty towards me for an extended period of time. Following the Sioux family town conflict, Yang Mi lost all hope for the end of the apocalypse. She used to believe that the snow calamity was temporary and that the world would revert back to its former state, where she would once again shine as a prominent figure. However, witnessing the brutal demise of over 100 individuals shattered her belief, leading her to genuinely seek closeness with me rather than superficially. Just then, an unexpected phone call interrupted my thoughts, startling me. Immediately, I thought of Lu Fengde and how my most significant secret had been exposed. Who could be reaching out to me now? However, this time, I remained much more composed as I answered the call. Before I could utter a word, an enthusiastic voice came through, saying, "Hello Jiang Mi. This is Chunla from Sioux Family Town. Do you have a moment? I have something to discuss with you." Upon hearing that it was someone from Sioux Family Town, I instantly became vigilant. After the attack that occurred yesterday, I harbored no positive sentiments towards their village and was contemplating when to eradicate them. Chunla continued, "I was wondering if we could reconcile and avoid causing trouble for each other in the future." Upon hearing this, I couldn't help but let out a chuckle. It was always you who provoked me, not the other way around. And now, suddenly, you want to make peace. How optimistic of you. As I listened to Chunla's voice on the other end of the phone, I could sense his nervousness. It was clear that he was already filled with fear in his heart. After our two encounters, he had come to see me as a formidable and dangerous opponent. His voice trembled as he spoke in a submissive manner. He called me this time to offer an apology, blaming all the faults on our village. He pleaded with me to spare our simple villagers, emphasizing that we hadn't caused any harm and had suffered greatly ourselves. He assured me that they were willing to meet any conditions I set forth. I found their sudden respect and strange tone quite peculiar, wondering why they had sent someone so weak for negotiations. It seemed as though they had sent a rookie who had just entered society. In response, I raised my voice and questioned Chunla's authority to represent Sioux Family Town. It was then that he revealed his true identity. He confessed to being the mutant who had clashed with me twice before. Upon hearing this, my demeanor immediately turned serious. "It is indeed you. Yes, it is I. Do you believe that I am now qualified? I had the thought that if it is him, he certainly has the right to negotiate." Upon seeing the only person I am cautious of, my tone immediately became more friendly. "You just mentioned that as long as I agree to reconcile, you can fulfill any of my demands. Is that correct?" Chunla, sensing an opportunity, responded with a foolish grin, "As long as our village is capable of doing so, we will make every effort to satisfy you." After this conflict, Chunla was almost certain that I must be in possession of a significant amount of supplies from the Walmart warehouse. He concluded that the offerings of the village would not interest me. I also perceived that this plump individual was not unintelligent. His abilities with ice and snow were a formidable weapon in this frozen apocalypse. If I could recruit him, he would be extremely valuable. I then spoke earnestly, expressing my desire for only one thing from Chunla himself. Chunla was taken aback, startled by my words. He let out a fearful yelp, clearly not expecting such a serious declaration. "I want to clarify that I am straight," I quickly added, hoping to dispel any misunderstandings. The situation left me speechless, while Joe Kyer and Yang Mi, who were nearby, found the whole situation amusing and burst into laughter. But let me make it clear, my interest in Chunla lies solely in his unique ice and snow abilities. If he truly wishes to establish peace, I urged him to come to my shelter in person, emphasizing my point. However, I warned him that if I ever find myself in a foul mood, I might consider wiping out his village. It's important for him to understand that his abilities are completely ineffective against me, and destroying his village would be as effortless as flipping my hand. Chunla, filled with terror, stood up from his chair, his entire body trembling. Sensing his haste, I reminded him that obliterating his village would not benefit me in any way. In fact, our villages are interdependent, as they are located in close proximity to each other. I pointed out that in the face of any external threats in the future, we could potentially assist each other. However, I made it clear that I did not want to hear about enemies from him, as he was currently my biggest adversary. If he were to emerge victorious, he would not only take away my supplies, but also my wife. And if he were to fail, he would come seeking peace. His calculations were so transparent that I could hear them from my own house. If he truly desired peace, I challenged him to demonstrate his sincerity. What is the purpose of your call? Are you merely informing me about your intentions for reconciliation? I request that you come to my designated location at 2:30 p.m. It is imperative that only you, Chunla, attend. Based on our conversation, I have formed an understanding of this individual's demeanor. It appears that he is possibly an introverted, feeble, and timid enthusiast of Japanese culture. Clearly, he lacks the cunning and strength that I possess. Therefore, I took the liberty of pressuring him to make a decision. Whether you choose to come or not is entirely up to you. However, if you decline, I will make it a point to visit your village and eradicate it. Upon hearing this, Chunla was immediately overcome with fear, causing him to lose his composure during our negotiation. The terror in his heart intensified, and the memories of yesterday's brutal incident resurfaced in his mind. He stammered out his response, trembling with fear. "Very well, I will go." After uttering these words, I promptly ended the call, leaving Chunla with no opportunity to reconsider his decision. Chunla was taken aback and crumbled to the ground, his legs giving way beneath him. This is the end. Going there is almost certain doom. My genuine affection. My life of deceit. Will it all come to an end here? After ending the call, I also became grave, starting to strategize for the afternoon meeting. This individual's capabilities truly have boundless potential and could pose a significant threat. However, if he were to become my subordinate, that would be a wise decision. I resolved to test him in the afternoon, as his abilities did not pose a threat to me. I would then decide whether to eliminate him or not. After resting, I positioned myself on the balcony, fully armed, awaiting the arrival of this plump individual with my sniper rifle. Before long, a figure appeared in my scope, the familiar portly figure from last night's tactical observation. My aim was already fixed on his head. The moment he entered my shooting range, I could obliterate his mind. However, before he could take a few steps, the chubby guy slipped and fell, causing me to burst into laughter. This was the formidable ice and snow mutant, the one with limitless potential, yet I couldn't afford to let my guard down and continued to observe him. Just as he got back up, he stumbled once again. It seemed he was genuinely terrified. Seeing that he posed no threat, I relaxed and prepared to meet this intriguing mutant downstairs. Chunla then called, "Your residence is surrounded by traps. I dare not come." "There is no need for you to come," I replied, and before the words had even faded, I materialized right in front of Chunla. Upon catching sight of me, Chunla's legs trembled with weakness. "Are you Johnny?" he asked, clearly taken aback. He had anticipated a formidable killer, not a scholarly-looking individual. Summoning his courage, Chunla continued, "I have followed your request and come here alone. Surely, this demonstrates my sincerity. Let us cease this fighting. It was a futile battle from the start." Hearing his words, I couldn't help but laugh. "You initiated the attack, and now you seek peace. And you claim it was meaningless. Do you truly believe that?" Chunla nervously scratched the back of his head and replied with a foolish grin, "Indeed, it is our village's fault. So, what conditions do you propose for reconciliation? I want to know, what can you offer to earn my forgiveness?" Sheepishly, Chunla added, "You can ask for anything, except the lives of our Sioux family members." As I pondered, I realized that I lacked nothing in terms of provisions, and there was nothing in their village that I desired. However, I still needed to assert my authority over the instigator of this attack. That person must perish, or else there will be no agreement. To my astonishment, Chunla displayed a surge of enthusiasm. The instigator of the assault happened to be our village chief, who had already been terrified by your actions. "Are you content now?" I found myself at a loss for words. I eliminated over 100 individuals yesterday. Did any of them happen to be your kin? Don't you desire retribution for them? Chunla then spoke with a hint of sorrow. "Following the snow calamity, my parents passed away. My father, who had a heart condition, succumbed on the first day of the snowstorm. Due to the heavy snow, there were no ambulances available, and he breathed his last at home. A week later, my mother also passed away in her bed. As for the others, they are not my immediate relatives. They generally hold a disdainful view of me. In their eyes, I am merely a worthless individual who spends the entire day playing games at home. Hence, I do not harbor any resentment towards you for eliminating hundreds of Sioux family members. On the contrary, I must admit, I hold a certain level of admiration for you. The manner in which you pursued us in your vehicle last evening was quite impressive. Upon hearing about this, I made the decision to give this rather plump individual a chance. While I am willing to establish peace, I must clarify that I have no interest in your village. The inhabitants of that village do not pose any threat to me. However, you, the portly gentleman, do intrigue me to some extent. For your sake, I am willing to spare your village. Chunla, upon hearing this, became incredibly ecstatic and hurriedly approached me for a hug. As someone as powerful as myself acknowledging him was a tremendous honor, I gestured for him to stop. Please do not get carried away. I have certain conditions. From this point forward, you must adhere to my orders and fulfill any requests I make. Upon hearing this condition, Chunla was overcome with fear. What if you have ulterior motives regarding my well-being? His reaction left me speechless. Upon sensing Chunla's hesitation, I decided to play my trump card and pulled out a rare limited edition figurine from another dimension. Here, take this. Working for me will definitely be worth your while. Chunla's eyes immediately lit up with excitement. It was clear that this unique figurine was irresistible to someone like him, an avid fan of anime and manga. I assured him that I had plenty more where that came from. As long as he remained loyal to me, he would have access to a plethora of limited edition figurines, body pillows, games, and cartridges. Chunla, overjoyed, hugged the figurine tightly and nodded in agreement. Okay. I'll do whatever you want, he said, and just like that, I successfully recruited Chunla as my subordinate. I couldn't help but feel a natural fondness for this chubby guy. There was something about his straightforward and reliable nature that appealed to me. But what I valued most were his unique ice and snow abilities. In this post-apocalyptic ice age, his potential was truly limitless. Since you're here, I need your help with something, I said. Chunla perked up, eager to prove his worth. It felt good to be valued. I then revealed a snow SUV from the alternate dimension, leaving Chunla stunned. In his surprise, he began to shower me with flattery. Time does not exist. Space is king. Brother Zhang, your abilities are surely invincible on a global scale. His words inadvertently made me ponder something. When I was on the verge of death, I somehow managed to go back in time by a month. Could it be that my spatial abilities were also linked to an undiscovered time travel ability? After a considerable amount of time behind the wheel, we finally arrived in front of an expansive edifice, originally serving as a prominent fueling station. The structure's energy consumption far exceeded that of a secure dwelling, necessitating my proactive preparation. Once the location was confirmed, I issued instructions to Chunla urging him to eliminate all traces of snow. Driven by an ardent desire to prove his worth, Chunla exerted every ounce of his strength. A resounding boom echoed through the air as the dense snow fractured under the force. The snow directly ahead of us began to tremble violently, subsequently giving rise to colossal chunks of ice and snow that were forcefully flung aside. Initially, Chunla appeared at ease, but gradually his struggle became apparent. I discreetly observed Chunla from my vantage point. Despite his status as my capable subordinate, it remained prudent to familiarize myself with his abilities, as vigilance towards others is always advisable. Before long, the gas station, concealed beneath layers of snow, was successfully cleared. Gasping for breath, Chunla succumbed to exhaustion and collapsed onto the ground. I experienced a hidden sense of excitement within me. With Chunla, a highly skilled individual in the field of tools, procuring resources in the future would become significantly more convenient. I discreetly handed him a piece of censored confectionery, and upon catching sight of the chocolate bar, Chunla's eyes gleamed with delight. He eagerly tore open the wrapper and began devouring it. Meanwhile, I swiftly maneuvered myself into the freshly cleared snow pit, intending to claim ownership of all the stored oil. Once the task was accomplished, Chunla once again showered me with compliments. Brother Zhang, your abilities are truly remarkable. I felt a slight sense of unease upon hearing this, as the majority of the work had been carried out by this plump individual. I extended my hand to transfer the oil cans into the alternate space. I then raised the question to Chunla, inquiring if he had ever utilized his abilities to excavate resources before. Naturally, he responded affirmatively. However, due to the extreme cold weather, our exploration capabilities were limited. Furthermore, our dogs were not purebred Siberian Huskies, thus restricting us to only uncovering resources in close proximity. Nevertheless, for our purposes, this was already sufficient. There is no necessity to endanger our lives by venturing further away. I regarded Chunla with great admiration, as if he were a precious gem. He is truly an exceptional individual with remarkable skills. With you by my side, any challenges that arise are easily overcome. Simply remain by my side, and I will ensure that you live a comfortable life. At that moment, I produced a backpack and presented it to Chunla as a token of appreciation for today's efforts. Overwhelmed with joy, Chunla held the heavy backpack, his eyes welling up with tears. "Brother Zhang, just give me any task, and I will carry it out without hesitation. If I even hesitate for a moment, I do not deserve the title of a successful person." After uttering these words, I prepared to return. During the journey, I casually inquired about Chunla's process of awakening his abilities. To my surprise, as soon as I asked, Chunla's face turned crimson, as if it was a topic too taboo to discuss. He stuttered, revealing that after the passing of his parents, he too lost the will to live. However, he lacked the courage to end his own life. Instead, he lay in bed, prepared to starve himself to death. "Did you awaken your abilities when you were on the brink of starvation?" Chunla's face grew even redder. He confessed that while lying in bed, he found comfort in the mattress and had a thought: since he was already ending his life, why not indulge himself one last time? A friend once warned him about the detrimental effects of excessive indulgence, but Chunla reasoned that since he had nothing to lose, why should he care about the harm it may cause? Thus, he indulged himself without restraint. How many times, you may ask? Chunla's face almost disappeared beneath the car seat. He admitted that he had lost count, but it was likely around 20-something times. Eventually, he nearly lost consciousness. However, after losing consciousness, his body underwent a mysterious and profound transformation. Unable to bear witness to Chunla's chubby appearance, I covered my face, unable to look directly at him. That's how he discovered his newfound ability to manipulate snow and his enhanced vision. It's truly peculiar. I left Chunla near the river, which is just a short distance from their village. Perplexed, Chunla asked me, "Brother Zhang, if I could assist him in crossing the river given the current weather conditions and his physical state. Walking back would be quite challenging for him. For me, it's as simple as pressing the gas pedal." However, I smiled inwardly, knowing that my car might skid on the icy surface of the river. Therefore, I decided not to attempt crossing it. In my mind, once we reach the other side, it becomes Chunla's territory. Despite appearing to have surrendered to me on the surface, I still need to exercise caution. His ability to manipulate ice last night, which resulted in my car being trapped on the river, has made me wary. Chunla found the slipping excuse to be quite implausible. Last night, when Johnny was pursuing us in his vehicle with a sniper rifle, he appeared rather composed. However, as a devoted follower of mine, he deemed my concerns to be reasonable and refrained from further inquiry. Without hesitation, he unfastened his seatbelt and exited the car. Just before his departure, I called out his name, Chunla. This direct address evoked a sense of intimacy within him. I gently tapped his shoulder and spoke earnestly. "In this post-apocalyptic world, peril lurks in every corner. Your Sioux family town is renowned in the city for its produce and cuisine. It is inevitable that you will attract attention, thus necessitating heightened vigilance." After expressing gratitude, Chunla disembarked from the vehicle and proceeded towards the village. My well-intentioned reminder to Chunla served a deeper purpose. I am not so benevolent as to be concerned about the fate of the Sioux family. However, my sanctuary and the Sioux family town operate independently, so it is prudent to instill caution in them. By implanting this notion in Chunla, any unfamiliar individual who approaches will be regarded as a potential adversary, thereby fortifying the protective barrier around my sanctuary. Upon his return to the village, Chunla, filled with excitement, hurriedly went to inform the current village chief, hoping to receive praise from Su Dongtang. However, instead of the expected commendation, he was met with a severe reprimand. This reaction left him feeling utterly discouraged. Perplexed, Chunla addressed Su Dongtang, "Sixth Grandpa, I did this to safeguard our village from potential attacks. Johnny is incredibly powerful, and we lack the strength to resist him." Su Dongtang sneered in response, "If you hadn't acted like a coward yesterday, we wouldn't have suffered such devastating losses. Your third grandpa lost his life because of your actions. And now, you're taking it upon yourself to negotiate peace. You have truly brought shame upon our Su family ancestors." For a moment, Chunla was at a loss for words, overwhelmed with a deep sense of disheartenment. However, he remained steadfast in his promise to protect the Su family town, made to his late third grandpa. "Johnny cannot be fought against, so we must pursue peace instead." To Su Dongtang's surprise, he scolded Chunla harshly and forcefully slammed his hand on the table to interrupt him. Su Dongtang questioned who the clan leader was and criticized Chunla for thinking he was clever. He declared that all actions must be reported to him first and that Chunla cannot make decisions independently. Chunla felt reprimanded like a guilty cat, even though he saw himself as a deserving individual. In the midst of his self-doubt, Su Dongtang approached Chunla, patted his shoulder, and solemnly stated that although sixth grandpa knew Chunla had no ill intentions, he was still too young and lacked thorough consideration. Su Dongtang blamed Chunla for the heavy losses suffered by the Su family this time. He mentioned that if he hadn't defended Chunla in front of the clan, Chunla would have been expelled from the village by now. Staying in the village was also a way for Chunla to atone for his sins, so he must obediently follow Su Dongtang's orders from now on. Su Dongtang emphasized this last point. Chunla trembled, repeatedly assuring his understanding. Su Dongtang then displayed a content expression. "You may now return. Remember, never take independent action again." Observing Chunla's departure, Su Dongtang adjusted his spectacles, reflecting on how young individuals can be so arrogant and presumptuous. They should not believe they can disregard their elders simply because they have acquired some skills. He then retrieved his mobile phone and sent censored messages to various branches of the clan, taking full credit for successfully negotiating peace with Jinyi. The branches, who had been concerned about a potential attack from Jinyi, were finally relieved. They unanimously praised Su Dongtang's competence, even suggesting that they should have supported sixth grandpa as the clan leader earlier to prevent third grandpa's foolish mistakes. They lamented the unnecessary loss of hundreds of lives due to the errors of that old man, while praising sixth grandpa for his foresight and wisdom. Su Dongtang felt immense satisfaction within himself, muttering that this worthless individual who spends his days playing games at home thinks he can outsmart him, displaying his naivety. Upon returning to the shelter, in order to alleviate their concerns, I briefly recounted to the two sisters what had transpired after I left. Yang Mi applauded enthusiastically upon hearing the account. "This is truly remarkable. Now we no longer have to be concerned about their aggression." Zhu Qier, on the other hand, was accustomed to such occurrences and regarded Yang Mi with contempt. "My brother Zhang did not completely eradicate them, which is already the utmost mercy he could extend to them. There is nothing to fear. However, I can comprehend why you, being fearful, perceive it this way. Otherwise, you wouldn't have almost vomited yesterday." Yang Mi, frustrated, stomped her foot. "That is not accurate. I simply did not wish to witness such a gory spectacle again." Zhu Qier paid no attention to her explanation. Instead, he approached me and embraced me, showering me with praise. "My brother Zhang is incredibly formidable. Those insignificant individuals could never pose a threat to us. However, I have begun to feel concerned. The last time we visited the defense camp for weapons, we discovered that the individuals there had already evacuated in an organized manner, taking numerous heavy weapons with them. These well-trained organizations are the most troublesome." Yang Mi, not to be outdone, pressed herself against me, emphasizing her most prominent attribute. "Do not always dwell on the worst-case scenario. At the very least, we have resolved our current predicament, which is cause for celebration." With that being said, Zhu Qier made her way to the bar to procure some beverages. "If we are commemorating, it is imperative that we indulge in a few drinks to fully relish the occasion." Yang Mi, in addition, volunteered to prepare some of her renowned dishes, privately acknowledging that she was a well-regarded socialite in the entertainment industry and had developed a commendable tolerance for alcohol. "Today, I am going to impart a lesson to both of you," I uttered with a chuckle, "just have a small amount for the sake of it. My capacity to handle alcohol is fairly average." Upon hearing this, their excitement escalated even further. "No worries, we will cease when it is sufficient." In under 2 hours, the two ladies were sprawled unconscious on the couch. Observing the two inebriated individuals who attempted to intoxicate me, I couldn't resist bursting into laughter. I forgot to mention, in the past, I worked as a warehouse manager. I used to vend alcoholic beverages, which left me slightly tipsy. I approached them and began engaging with Yang Mi, who was nestled in my embrace. Yang Mi reluctantly opened her drowsy eyes, taken aback to discover my presence looming over her. She questioned my audacity, reminding me that Sister Zhu Qier was right beside us. Disregarding her concerns, I continued my actions for a couple of minutes before finally succumbing to sleep. Several days later, Chun Li unexpectedly reached out to me, expressing his boredom with staying at home and requesting to embark on a mission together. He proposed the idea of forming a 5-person superpower team, with each member represented by a different color, thus dubbing it the Rainbow Squad. He even devised names for each of us, designating me as the King of No Color and himself as the King of Blue. I was left speechless, but in order to win people's favor, I reluctantly engaged in conversation with this overweight individual, extracting some valuable information. However, as time went on, I found it increasingly unbearable. It became evident that this guy lacked a girlfriend and possessed an excessive amount of energy. Unable to contain my frustration any longer, I erupted in anger and insulted him directly, referring to him as a fatso. Surprisingly, Chun Li did not take offense. Instead, he felt a stronger bond with me, responding with an emoji and praising my ability to accurately predict his actions. He exclaimed, "You are truly amazing, my brother. How did you know I would be on board all day? You are like a god to me." I was left in complete astonishment, my hand pressed against my face in disbelief. This particular individual, who could be categorized as an otaku residing on the outskirts of society, possessed a profound eagerness to offer their utmost devotion to anyone who displayed even the slightest hint of kindness towards them. Despite my harsh words and criticisms, this individual would interpret them in a positive light. Eventually, I found it increasingly difficult to scold this overweight otaku, and thus resorted to utilizing a smart reply software. This software would automatically generate perfunctory responses, such as an "OORM," after receiving 3 or 5 messages from him. Astonishingly, this simple gesture would bring immense joy to this hefty individual, akin to that of a 300-pound child. During the monotonous periods within the shelter, I would frequently visit the control room to meticulously oversee all operations and diligently assess any potential security risks. Yang Mi has successfully managed the ecological botanical garden, indicating that long-term survival within the shelter is not a significant concern. However, there is a particular concern that I cannot help but feel anxious about: the issue of cybersecurity. The supercomputer in control of all the shelter's programs plays a crucial role. Without it, the entire shelter would be rendered immobile in an instant. It is understandable that Liu Fengde managed to hack into my phone, but even otaku Chun Li was able to discover my number. This clearly indicates significant vulnerabilities in the network security of the shelter. If the network were to be breached by top experts, the shelter could collapse without even being directly attacked. In the midst of this, Yang Mi and Zhu Qier appear to have engaged in an argument. Yang Mi, visibly agitated, insists, "Zhu Qier, you must assist us in this matter. I am well acquainted with Zhang Yi. He is an extremely cautious individual who would never take any risks, especially considering that our livelihood depends on him. If anything were to happen to him, none of us would be able to survive." After a brief period of reflection, Yang Mi confidently declares that she must make an attempt, despite the circumstances. At present, all she possesses is her own physical form. Zhu Qier gazes at her with evident disdain and bluntly accuses her of planning to seduce someone. Filled with anger, Zhu Qier stands up and asserts that he is aware of the secret activities between the two of them. He questions whether they expect him to assist them, expressing surprise. Youngli weakly nods in agreement, indicating that she doesn't mind. Suddenly, I, who have been eavesdropping at the door, enter the room and jokingly inquire why they aren't sleeping in the middle of the night. Youngli, attempting to appear composed, grabs my hand and explains that they are merely discussing family matters. Intrigued, I press for more information, suggesting that since there is no one else present, they should share their concerns. I speculate whether they are considering bringing their living relatives to live together. Shukir shakes her head in panic and denies this, revealing that she has lost contact with her family. After the catastrophic event, I found myself alone in the Heavenly Sea City. Consequently, I have been disconnected from my family for an extended period of time. Regrettably, it is highly probable that they have perished by now. Youngli stammered, barely able to speak. It is me, and it concerns my family. Astonishingly, my sister managed to contact me. She is currently in a perilous situation and implored me to find a solution to rescue her. Surprisingly, it appears that her sister reached out to her just yesterday, expressing that she was in grave danger. Consequently, she hopes that I can devise a plan to save her. Upon hearing this, I couldn't help but chuckle. What could the two of you possibly do to rescue someone? Please don't tell me you expect me to shoulder this responsibility. Are you anticipating that I risk my life to save someone who is unrelated to me? I am not that selfless. Realizing that the situation was already exposed, the younger version of myself abandoned all pretenses and clung to me, pleading. She might be my only surviving relative, and I cannot simply stand by and watch her perish. Since she is my younger sister, she is naturally related to Shukir as well. Consequently, Shukir also arrived, looking at me with a desperate expression. She is a part of our family, and if she were to die because we failed to save her, we would carry a lifetime of guilt. I gazed helplessly at the sisters, fully aware of the dire situation outside. The information I possessed was no longer a well-kept secret. I couldn't fathom how many individuals were my provisions within this highly secure shelter. Determined, I straightened my posture, making it clear that there was no room for negotiation. It was inconceivable for me to take such a perilous risk for a complete stranger. Even if they attempted to entice me, their efforts would be in vain. I refused to believe that their temporary presence in my life would sway my judgment. Witnessing my resolute denial, the sisters became frantic, their tears flowing uncontrollably as they clung to my legs. Please, Shukir whispered in my ear, if you agree to save her, we will wholeheartedly fulfill any of your requests. A thought crossed my mind upon hearing this plea. My interest piqued. I asked, have you ever considered a threesome? My eyes gleamed with anticipation as the sisters looked at me with hopeful eyes, awaiting my response. Just as I was about to decline, a younger version of myself interjected, mentioning my sister, young Xin, who was physically disabled. It was a miracle that she had managed to survive for this long, and her desperation to seek my assistance was evident. I couldn't help but feel pity for her, my helpless sister. I hesitated, on the verge of speaking, but ultimately held my tongue. Are you referring to the brilliant hacker, young Xin, that you mentioned earlier? I pondered silently. She was an 18-year-old prodigy, possessing both beauty and exceptional hacking skills. Isn't that the perfect network engineer I've been searching for? My heart is filled with excitement as I continue my quest. The most pressing issue for me at the moment is the matter of cybersecurity. Above all, reliability is of utmost importance. She is the sister of these two individuals here, leaving no doubt about her loyalty. With this in mind, I affectionately hold the hands of the two women, assuring them not to worry. Since she is your sister, she is like a sister to me as well. I, Johnny, will not stand idly by or engage in any affairs. Upon hearing my words, the two sisters are filled with joy. Shukir even has a star-struck expression on her face. Throughout the interview, Johnny has always been a refined egoist, but now he is helping me. It must be because he is in love with me, she thought, and I, a young and moved individual, am unsure of how to repay his kindness. I proudly gaze into their eyes. Am I, Johnny, truly heartless? You are all mistaken. I am actually someone who may appear cold on the outside, but is warm on the inside. I genuinely cherish the people around me. The two women blush, their perception of me undergoing a significant transformation. Shukir falls even deeper, while Yeonmi is instantly smitten and at a loss for words. Sensibly as she is, she slowly kneels before me. After an entire night of extensive deliberation, I consented to undertake the mission of liberating their sibling, Yeon Shin. Naturally, the primary motivation behind this decision was not some manipulative ploy. Presently, my utmost concern revolves around the realm of cybersecurity. If I were able to successfully rescue this prodigious hacker and enlist her services, all of our predicaments would be resolved. Subsequently, I requested the two individuals to confer with me regarding the plan for her rescue. Kindly enlighten me about the circumstances surrounding your sister. Yeonmi spoke with utmost gravity. Yeon Shin is presently ensnared within the confines of Azure Sky Academy. You may be familiar with its reputation. Azure Sky Academy stands as a prestigious institution catering to the elite, providing comprehensive education from early childhood to university level. It typically only nurtures the children of the privileged class, but also accepts a few exceptional individuals. Graduates from these institutions often become influential figures in both political and business spheres. Hearing this, I couldn't help but ponder on how to ensure the well-being of girls or young children in such harsh and freezing conditions. After all, schools are densely populated areas and usually lack sufficient food storage. It is difficult to fathom how she managed to survive in such a brutal catastrophe. Yeonmi mentioned that these prestigious schools have their own specialized food supply channels with substantial reserves stored in their warehouses. Yeon Shin happened to find shelter in the cafeteria early on during the snow disaster, which prevented her from starving to death. However, I still have numerous uncertainties. Why did she wait until now to contact you? In times of crisis, one would seek assistance from anyone available. Why did she specifically think of reaching out to you, her sister, almost 2 months after the apocalypse began? As soon as I mentioned this, Yeonmi was also taken aback. I am equally unsure of the reasons. Let me call her immediately. I was too anxious yesterday and there were many unanswered questions. However, despite making numerous unsuccessful attempts to call, she recollected that she had previously made an effort to reach out to her, but was unable to establish contact. Consequently, her expectations were not very high. At this juncture, Jo Kerr sneered discreetly. Perhaps Yeon Shin assumed you were no longer alive, hence she didn't take your attempts seriously. Subsequently, I inquired from Yeonmi about the proximity of Azure Sky Academy to our location. Observing Yeonmi's perplexed expression, I retrieved my phone and accessed the map. In the present day, signal strength is inadequate and satellite positioning poses its own set of challenges, leaving us with no choice but to rely on the map for distance verification. Azure Sky Academy is situated in the West Mountain District, approximately 23 kilometers away from the villa area. It is truly a remarkable occurrence that I am able to communicate with you amidst the ongoing breakdown in long-distance communication. It is also plausible that she believed you to be deceased, hence never attempting to reach out. Accompany me to the control room, where her ineffectual sister is present. In the present day, conventional mobile phones are incapable of transmitting signals through the nebula chain. However, there is a possibility that the supercomputer in the control room possesses the capability to do so. Upon dialing Yeon Shin's number, a jarring electronic noise ensued, indicating a highly unstable signal, seemingly disrupted by strong interference. Nevertheless, after a brief moment, the call successfully connected, causing both sisters to become elated. Yeon Shin, please swiftly inform me of your situation through your sister. She will find a way to rescue you. The voice on the other end was intermittent, accompanied by significant noise. We only managed to discern that she was at the school cafeteria and appeared to be in grave danger. I urgently inquired, in a hurry, what type of peril are you facing? Only to be informed that Ron Monsters is on the way. Amidst the chaotic electronic disturbance, a bone-chilling and horrifying noise emerged, something non-human. It resembled the roar of a colossal creature. The call abruptly disconnected amidst the commotion, leaving behind an anxious busy tone. Initially, I believed it was a straightforward mission to retrieve someone from a school, but the call unveiled a petrifying monster noise. The sound of limbs and bones being mercilessly torn apart, a sound I have only encountered in zombie films, was followed by an abrupt termination of the call, leaving only a beeping sound resonating in a control room. It appears that Azure Sky Academy harbors monstrous entities. Could animals have also undergone mutations? Observing my hesitant expression, Yeonmi once again clung to me, pleading in a gentle and persuasive tone. "Brother Jeonmi, you made a promise to us. You cannot go back on your word regarding this matter." I smiled faintly. I assured her that I would save her, and I intend to fulfill that promise. There is no need to worry. It appears that the situation has become quite complex. I must reach out to our mutant allies for assistance. I will have Uncle Yu lead the way, amid shield, while Chun-Lei controls the ice and snow in the middle. Meanwhile, I will remain in the background, ready to seize any opportunities for surprise attacks. If things take a turn for the worse, I will be the first to retreat. This formation is truly flawless. With this in mind, I promptly contacted Chun-Lei. Chun-Lei had been eager to embark on the mission and was already growing impatient. Uncle Yu also agreed without hesitation. I speculated that the sound of the earring could be attributed to a mutated individual or some other creature with mutant characteristics. Despite the initial fear it may evoke, considering that a duo of beseeched young ladies successfully managed to endure it for an extended period of time, the fact that we, as a trio of mutants, should not find it excessively challenging. Nevertheless, I must exercise additional caution due to the fact that our adversary is an unfamiliar mutant. At the crack of dawn the following day, the siblings had already meticulously prepared an abundant spread of delectable cuisine. I refrained from indulging in excessive gluttony, as consuming a medley of foods can easily lead to digestive issues, and I also had to be mindful of my fluid intake, as it could potentially impede my mobility. Nonetheless, it was imperative for me to replenish my physical energy adequately. My alternate space had also been meticulously prepared with an ample supply of food for timely replenishment. All of my weapons and equipment were meticulously loaded and ready for action. Once all the necessary preparations had been made, Chun-Lei contacted me urgently. "I am already by the river. Hurry up and come pick me up," he exclaimed. Aware that my house was surrounded by traps, he hesitated to approach. The sight of his several relatives buried in the snow in front of my house only intensified his caution. Assuring him that I would be there promptly, I ended the call. Turning to the two women, I emphasized the importance of their safety. "For the time being, you must stay in the basement," I instructed. Yeonmi, puzzled, questioned, "Why the basement when the house is already secure?" Shu-Kir, instantly comprehending the situation, firmly grasped Yeonmi's clothes and advised, "Do not inquire further. Simply follow instructions." With that, she guided Yeonmi towards the basement. Shu-Kir was well aware of the man's ulterior motives. After all, the information had been relayed by her trusted sister, and the person they were rescuing was their own sister. She harbored concerns that this could potentially be a trap devised by the two of them together. This is the customary method of handling situations. I confined the two individuals in chambers constructed from a durable material, utilizing my superior authority to secure the doors externally. Only I possessed the ability to unlock the doors. Yeonmi gradually comprehended the implications of this arrangement. Despite feeling somewhat uneasy, she remained determined to rescue her sibling and expressed her support for me. Furthermore, I assured them that if their sister remained alive upon our arrival, we would undoubtedly bring her back unharmed. Exiting the basement, I pondered inwardly. Truthfully, I did not desire to be excessively cautious in every aspect, nor did I wish to constantly be suspicious of even those closest to me. However, in order to lead a secure existence in this post-apocalyptic world, one cannot afford to display even the slightest hint of negligence.
What kind of monstrous mutant would require 3 specialized ability users to defeat it?
Please, Yes. Okay, thank you.
What kind of monstrous mutant would require 3 specialized ability users to defeat it? To ensure success, I enlisted 2 reliable allies. Chun-Lei, unable to sit still, had already arrived at the riverside hours ahead of schedule. When I finally showed up, he waved eagerly. As usual, Chun-Lei's overenthusiasm left me at a bit of a loss. We had agreed on meeting at 8, but he had been here since 6, waiting in the cold. I tapped the door of my snow vehicle and said, "Hop in." "You didn't freeze out here, did you?" As soon as the heater hummed to life, Chun-Lei relaxed and turned to me, grinning. "Yesterday, you mentioned rescuing someone. Is this person a friend or family? She must be important to you." I was tempted to explain Yang Xinxin's invaluable computer skills, but Chun-Lei was already lost in his own chatter, catching me up on every detail of his life. "Su Lily from the village keeps looking at me differently, you know," he boasted. "I think she's fallen for me. Last time, I saved her father, so she probably sees me as someone she can rely on for life. She's just too shy to say anything. Think I should make a move?" I rolled my eyes. If Chun-Lei weren't so useful, I might have kicked him out right there. Shifting the topic, I asked, "What does everyone back in your village think of me now?" Chun-Lei's smile faded, and he looked conflicted. He hesitated, but I had a good idea of why. After nearly wiping out half the able-bodied men in his village, the people surely resented me, kept in check only by fear of my strength. Chun-Lei's silence, however, was refreshing. Ahead, a second vehicle appeared. I hopped out and greeted him. "Uncle Yu, you're looking lively. Seems things with Zhu Himi are going well?" Uncle Yu raised a hand and grinned. "Since the apocalypse, I feel like I'm 20 again. Never thought I'd have this energy." After some banter, I introduced Chun-Lei and Uncle Yu, who were surprised to learn they both had unique abilities. To meet even one awakened person was rare, let alone two. Uncle Yu eventually asked the question that was on everyone's mind: what kind of threat needs the three of us with abilities to handle? I gestured to keep them calm and explained, "Our goal is to rescue a female student at Azure Sky Academy. I spoke with her yesterday, but something sounded wrong on the call. I could hear something in the background, and it didn't sound human. That's why I need your help." Chun-Lei, sharp-eyed, caught the hint. "Wait, did you say mutant creatures, not just humans?" Nodding, I said, "That's right. Who said only humans can mutate? Heavenly Sea City is filled with a range of creatures, and anything with cells, whether pets, fish, or crabs, has a chance of mutating." Uncle Yu looked unconvinced. "What are we dealing with that even you can't handle alone?" I assured him, "It's nothing to worry about. From what I heard, it doesn't sound human. And if it were a mutated human, it would be in a frenzied state. No regular human could make those sounds. Together, we'll be more than enough to handle anything we encounter." With that, the three of us set off for Azure Sky Academy. The academy, blanketed in heavy snow, was a desolate sight. Only the rooftops of taller buildings poked through the layers of white. In the gymnasium, a dwindling group of students huddled together, visibly shaken from relentless encounters with the academy's monstrous threats. Frustrations boiled over, and many glared at Yang Xinxin, who sat in a wheelchair. Some blamed her, sneering, "Why are so many dying while you're still safe?" The creatures terrorizing them appeared without warning, and the teacher responsible for their safety always seemed to prioritize Yang Xinxin. This favoritism only fueled the students' frustration. One girl even shouted in despair, "Are we ever getting out of here alive?" From the initial group of over 100 students, fewer than 40 remained. The roll call of lost classmates left an icy pit in everyone's stomachs. A girl with cascading, wavy hair fixed Yang Xinxin with a hateful glare, sneering, "Why are we losing so many, but this worthless cripple's still here?" Teacher Liang's obvious favoritism towards Yang Xinxin had set her up as a scapegoat, and some students even suggested leaving her behind to distract the monsters. While they understood that Yang Xinxin's death wouldn't stop the creatures, the twisted logic made her a convenient sacrifice in their minds. As the accusations mounted, their grim expressions shifted, mingling fear with warped satisfaction. Venting their hatred toward the weakest among them gave them a grim sense of relief in the face of their growing despair. The class monitor, struggling to keep his composure, called out, "Enough, everyone. Please stop. Teacher Liang has always treated each of us with care, never choosing to leave anyone behind. Yet, as painful as it is to say, we keep losing more friends. Do you really think that by pushing Yang Xinxin out, you'd be any safer?" Just then, a girl with a sly smile stepped out from the crowd and sauntered up to Yang Xinxin, who shrank back in fear. "What are you trying to do, Zhang Mengning?" Yang Xinxin stammered, her voice quivering as Zhang Mengning leaned in, her eyes cold and unforgiving. "What am I trying to do?" Zhang Mengning sneered. "You useless cripple, you should just disappear already. Why should we keep risking ourselves for you?" The words stung, and Yang Xinxin's eyes filled with tears as she looked around, hoping for someone to stand up for her. But instead of support, the crowd began to murmur in agreement, some even clapping and cheering. Suddenly, a short-haired girl stepped forward and positioned herself protectively in front of Yang Xinxin. Lu Karen, her loyal friend and the one who had been pushing her wheelchair all along, glared at Zhang Mengning. "Zhang Mengning, we're all classmates here. Don't go too far," Lu Karen warned, trying to hold back her frustration. Zhang Mengning only laughed in response, looking down on her with disdain. "And who are you to talk to me like that? Just some nobody who wormed her way into school through connections," Zhang Mengning taunted, her voice dripping with contempt. "You think you're better than me because you defend her? What a joke." Lu Karen's anger flared. "In times like these, your family's money is as worthless as paper. How can you still act so arrogant?" This only enraged Zhang Mengning more, and she shot back, "Shut up. I'll talk to whoever I want, and if you don't like it, leave. You don't matter to me, just like she doesn't." She turned her gaze back to Yang Xinxin, her voice sharp and bitter. "Thanks to you, we keep losing friends. If you'd just stop dragging us down, maybe they'd still be alive. Why don't you do us all a favor and go die already?" Yang Xinxin kept her head down, silently enduring the jeers and curses from her classmates. She felt a crushing weight in her chest, the words piercing deeper than she could bear. Seeing this, Lu Karen grew even more determined. Yang Xinxin is a person too. She has the right to survive. The deaths of our classmates are not her fault. One girl with a seemingly innocent expression then chimed in, "But you have to admit, her condition is putting everyone at risk." She shrugged, looking to the others. Zhang Mengning has a point. Soon, others began voicing the same sentiments, some even accusing Yang Xinxin of holding them emotionally hostage with her disability. "Why should we keep hauling this dead weight? She's done nothing for us, and we're risking our lives for her." Another voice called out, venomous and unforgiving. Angry and exasperated, Lu Karen fought back. "I've been the one pushing Yang Xinxin's wheelchair the whole time. None of you have lifted a finger to help her. So who are you to pass judgment on her?" Zhang Mengning scoffed. "Oh, how noble of you. But you're only being used by her, don't you see? Just because she can't walk doesn't mean she doesn't feel entitled. You're just a charity case for her, a servant at best. Do you really think she cares about you?" Trying to ignore Zhang Mengning's taunts, Lu Karen defended her friend. "Yang Xinxin isn't anything like you're saying." Meanwhile, Yang Xinxin remained quiet, head bowed, the hurtful accusations pounding in her head and filling her with despair. Tears slid down her cheeks, as if surrendering to the weight of the malice around her. At that moment, a tall, elegant girl stepped forward from the crowd. "Let's stop this bickering," Shen Miaoka, the class committee secretary and another student from a well-off family, announced with calm authority. "In times like these, we need unity, not division. Yang Xinxin may cause some inconvenience, but we won't leave anyone behind. Let's keep supporting each other, as friends should." She extended her hand warmly toward Yang Xinxin, as if offering a truce. But before Yang Xinxin could respond, a sudden, loud clang echoed through the gym. A metal window high above burst open, and a monstrous hand, long and sinewy, shot through the gap, seizing a nearby student. He was hoisted into the air before he even had time to scream, and terror surged through the group. Everyone scrambled towards the gym's rear, their faces white with horror. Outside, a massive creature, vaguely cat-like but with grotesque, unnatural features, loomed over the window, licking its blood-stained lips as it drew the student closer to its gaping jaws. The student's scream was cut short as the beast bit down, devouring him in one swift, brutal motion. Paralyzed by the sight, several of the girls collapsed, trembling, while others clung to each other in terror. In the pandemonium, Yang Xinxin and Lu Karen were left behind as the crowd surged toward the back door, which they quickly found was frozen shut. Some students were so terrified they lost control of their bladders, while others frantically banged on the door, hoping to force it open. As the monstrous creature stepped fully into the gym, its cold eyes scanned the cowering students. Sensing an opportunity, one student heartlessly shoved Yang Xinxin's wheelchair forward, causing her to fall to the ground. Lu Karen wanted to help her but found herself frozen, her body locked in sheer terror. The beast's gaze fell on Yang Xinxin, and it began to slowly advance, its sinister smile widening as it sensed vulnerability. The student who had pushed Yang Xinxin tried to slip toward the door, but the creature's keen eyes caught the movement. With a calculated swipe, it batted the student aside, sending him crashing against the wall with a sickening crack. He let out a pitiful whimper, clutching his ribs as he struggled to breathe. The young man, who had always been admired for his privilege and status, now lay crumpled and broken, his cries for help ignored by the others who were too frightened to intervene. Summoning her resolve, Lu Karen hurried to lift Yang Xinxin back into her wheelchair. Observing the scene, the others suddenly realized something. While Li Yong, who had tried to escape, had met a swift end, Yang Xinxin, who remained still, had been spared. It seemed the monster primarily targeted movement. This revelation struck the group like lightning. Yet, merely lying low wasn't a sustainable plan. If they didn't summon Teacher Liang soon, they knew they'd all be doomed. Meanwhile, the creature toyed with Li Yong, refusing to end his suffering quickly, like a predator savoring its prey. Seizing this brief distraction, the class monitor gave a swift directive: everyone, scatter and make a break for it. But as they made to escape, Li Yong, in a fit of despair, let out a twisted scream: "They're running. They're leaving me behind." With a spiteful grin, he howled, "If I have to die, you're all coming with me." The monstrous feline instantly turned toward the source of the noise and, with terrifying precision, pounced, bringing down two more boys in the group. Coughing blood, Li Yong laughed, "Let's all die together. You'll be my company in the afterlife." While the creature remained fixated on these new targets, the class monitor and two others used the moment to dash out of the gym. Breathless, they shared a brief moment of relief, with the two students thanking the monitor. "We're only out because of your quick thinking." Panting, he replied, "I noticed this creature has feline instincts. It toys with prey. Unless it's starved, dead targets don't interest it much." Encouraged by the successful escape, others tried to follow suit. But just as they moved, the monster's long tail cracked through the air, striking one student and sending them flying. Nearby girls crumbled, overwhelmed by fear and the sight of blood. Suddenly, a powerful voice rang out, "Back off, you vicious beast. Don't you dare harm my students." The students, frozen in terror, felt a glimmer of hope. Their savior, Teacher Liang, had returned. She stood fearlessly, wielding a polished ancient longsword and glowering at the creature. The beast snarled, briefly sizing her up, then swiftly evaded her first strike. Teacher Liang's heart broke at the sight of her fallen students, but she kept her composure, hoping to lead the creature outside, away from the survivors. Teacher Liang, a top-level swordmaster and once a personal guard for a government leader's family, had become even stronger after awakening her special abilities in the apocalypse. She had taken on the immense responsibility of protecting the students in Azure Sky Academy. Recognizing her intentions, the big cat snatched up a student's body in its jaws and swiftly vanished out of the gymnasium. With cautious steps, Liang approached the doorway, her sword at the ready, scanning for signs of the creature. But it had disappeared, leaving behind only deep footprints as evidence of its path. Relieved, she released a heavy sigh, exhaustion settling over her. Since the catastrophe began, she had been keeping the students safe, fighting monsters, and hunting for food, though more than half of them had perished. Without her awakened powers, she knew they would have all been long dead. Liang tossed the food she'd scavenged onto the floor for the students. "Class monitor, distribute this, please," she murmured before collapsing into a corner. She closed her eyes, her body aching, while the remaining students eagerly gathered around the meager rations. Amid the quiet, Zhang Mengning turned to Yang Xinxin with cold disdain, sneering, "Why are you still here, you useless cripple? What good are you to anyone?" Lu Karen, loyal as ever, jumped to defend her. "How can you blame Yang Xinxin for what's happening? It's not her fault." But Zhang Mengning's bitterness persisted. "She's just dead weight," she spat. Shen Miaoka stepped in, attempting to calm the tension. "Let's all just keep our words to ourselves," she urged gently, handing a portion of food to Yang Xinxin. However, Zhang Mengning slapped it away, snarling, "Wasting food on her is pointless. She'll end up as monster bait sooner or later. Better we save our resources for those of us who stand a chance." Teacher Liang, her eyes still closed, let out a weary sigh but refrained from intervening. She'd grown accustomed to the pettiness and quarrels among the students. In the grand scheme of things, she needed to conserve her energy, for soon enough, the mutated feline would return, and she'd need every bit of strength to confront it once again. A girl, overwhelmed by despair, broke down and cried, "Will you all just stop this pointless arguing? Can't you see it's useless? We're all doomed. We're nothing but food that monsters keeping around, like livestock. It comes back now and then, snatching a few to devour, sparing enough so that there's always more fresh prey. There's no escape, no one is coming to save us." The class monitor looked at the scraps of food in her hands and shook her head defiantly. "I refuse to believe that. There has to be hope. We're the future leaders of society, we can't just end here." She gazed at the snow-covered rooftops, murmuring, "If we could only make contact with the outside, I know my dad would send help." Just then, a faint rumble of an engine pierced the silence. 3 special ability users had finally arrived at Azure Sky Academy after navigating through the snow-covered landscape for an hour. The entire campus lay blanketed in snow, obscuring most landmarks. As I stepped out of the vehicle, I pulled out my pistol and reminded the others to stay vigilant. Uncle Yu, the oldest among us and a former soldier, instinctively took the lead, his formidable presence unmistakable. We looked around, but with snow covering everything, locating the person we'd come to rescue was like finding a needle in a haystack. I attempted to call Yang Xinxin, but my phone registered no signal. This school is vast, covering 3,000 acres. There should be a few buildings tall enough to stand above the snow. Let's stick together and search carefully, I suggested. Uncle Yu proposed that we split up to cover ground faster, but I shook my head. No need to take chances. She's managed to survive 2 months here, a little longer won't make a difference. Safety in numbers is better. We drove around cautiously until we spotted a high spire, likely the astronomy center, far off from the cafeteria and dormitories. Chun-Lei theorized, they're probably hiding somewhere spacious, like a lecture hall or gym. Those places would have plenty of oxygen, and the snow might have protected their roofs. I considered this, recalling mentions of a gymnasium and cafeteria during the call. This place has several cafeterias and gyms. This might take a while, I murmured. Suddenly, Chun-Lei, who had gotten out of the car, shouted, "Zhang, over here. I think we found an entrance." He used his powers to clear snow from the observatory skylight and climbed in. "Zhang, there's a ton of astronomical equipment here. Should we take it?" he called out. I sighed, reminding him, we're here to save people, not collect stuff. But alright, since we're here, store it in my dimensional space. With renewed enthusiasm, Chun-Lei worked with Uncle Yu to bring the gear through the window. Just as I was overseeing their progress, a chill crept up my spine. I sensed the presence of something sinister nearby. Turning slowly, I raised my gun and saw a colossal creature emerging from the snow, easily over 10 meters tall, with eyes gleaming with a predatory gaze. It looked ready to strike at any moment, yet I sensed no immediate killing intent. Confused, I kept my guard up. Chun-Lei and Uncle Yu soon rejoined me, ropes in hand, only for Chun-Lei to freeze as he saw the beast. Without thinking, he unleashed his ice abilities, launching spikes towards it. The snow was his domain, and his attack was fast and powerful. Before I could stop him, sharp ice spikes struck the creature, eliciting an enraged screech. Furious, it lunged at Chun-Lei with surprising agility. I quickly activated my abilities, enhancing my reflexes and jumping into the air, firing 3 rounds at the creature's head. The bullets barely left a scratch, glancing off its dense, armored fur. As it charged toward Chun-Lei, Uncle Yu stepped forward, his form shimmering with golden light as his muscles expanded, transforming him into a towering figure. With a single blow, he struck the creature's head, causing it to twist and stagger back, mewling in pain. Recognizing it as a mutated giant cat, I switched to a sniper rifle for better impact. The beast, now enraged from Uncle Yu's punch, turned its attention to me. I raised my rifle, aiming carefully, and fired, hitting it on the cheek. Its killing intent intensified, and it began to approach me slowly, its eyes fixated in rage. Suddenly, it curled into a ball, rolling toward me with astonishing speed. Caught off guard by this unusual tactic, I muttered, "What kind of crazy move is that?" Reacting quickly, I opened a dimensional portal, intending to trap it in my extra-dimensional space. But the creature, sensing the threat, leapt away in a flash and vanished into a nearby snow pile, leaving only a series of dark holes in the snow. Chun-Lei and Uncle Yu rushed over, worried. "Zhang, are you alright?" I nodded, keeping my rifle trained on the snow. "This creature is cunning. Stay on guard." Then, we heard an eerie, piercing wail, almost as if it were cursing us. Uncle Yu looked bewildered. Is it actually swearing at us? The thought caught us all by surprise as the beast turned, flashed its backside at us as if in defiance, and then disappeared into the snow. Uncle Yu scratched his head. How'd it vanish so fast? Chun-Lei speculated, maybe it has some kind of spatial abilities too. I lowered my rifle thoughtfully, doubtful. If it had space abilities, it would have used them before. Seems like it just fled. As we approached the spot where the cat had vanished, it became clear that it had dug its way underground. Chun-Lei, his expression tense, remarked, "Looks like the person we're here to rescue has come across this creature before. But it's a powerful and cunning beast. How have ordinary people managed to survive against it so far?" "Zhang, are you sure your information is accurate?" Chun-Lei's words resonated, making me pause. Even as a special ability user, he had nearly been overwhelmed by this beast's sheer power. Given its size and apparent intelligence, the creature would need a significant food supply, so it was unlikely it could survive purely by feeding on the school survivors alone. There's an odd detail, though, I reflected aloud. The creature didn't show hostility initially. It only turned aggressive when provoked by your ice attack. This suggests it's not just a mindless predator, it might have a level of intelligence comparable to ours. We observed the large burrows left in its wake, speculating that, perhaps these tunnels helped circulate fresh air underground, giving survivors a chance to avoid suffocation. Standing, I made my decision. Let's go down and check it out. Chun-Lei's face turned pale. You want to go down there? That's its lair. I shot him a look of impatience. You're an ice ability user, aren't you? Snow is your domain. If the cat attacks, just bury it in ice. Embarrassed, Chun-Lei admitted, right, I guess I forgot about that. We jumped into the cavern, finding ourselves in an expansive network of tunnels stretching beneath the snow, suggesting that the creature had lived here for some time. The pitch darkness forced me to light a mining lamp. Facing a maze of pathways, Chun-Lei voiced his concerns about getting lost, but I pulled out a set of colored pencils to mark our path. Uncle Yu's keen senses picked up a faint metallic scent. There's a hint of blood nearby. Must be the creature's lingering scent. Chun-Lei, looking uneasy, suggested, maybe we should search the areas without that smell. I rolled my eyes. If you're scared, head back. There are 3 of us with abilities, nothing to worry about. If it shows up, it'll be the one running. With that, I drew my Desert Eagle, a gleaming gold edition with power akin to a sniper rifle, and loaded it, preparing for any encounters. Uncle Yu gave an approving nod, recognizing the limited edition weapon with the kinetic force to puncture even the toughest armor. Uncle Yu, with your tracking skills, follow the blood trail. If the creature is hunting, it's likely near any living people. Finding it might lead us to the survivors, I instructed. Chun-Lei's unease was evident despite his impressive powers. Frustrated with his fear, I leveled him a firm gaze. Stay behind us, then. What are you so afraid of? If we encounter it, just trap it in ice, and we'll handle the rest. For now, we need to evaluate its behavior. If it's hostile, we don't hold back. My reassurances seemed to bolster Chun-Lei's confidence somewhat. Meanwhile, back in Azure Sky Academy's gymnasium, teacher Liang Yu had vigilantly guarded her students for 3 days without sleep, knowing the giant cat could attack at any moment. She was painfully aware that leaving her post would put the students in immediate danger. Exhausted and weakened by hunger, she knew they couldn't continue like this. If the monster didn't get them, starvation would. As she pondered the bleak situation, the class monitor and Shen Miaoke approached her. Teacher Liang, shouldn't you go out and find us some food? We're all starving here, the class monitor said, casting her a look of desperation. Shen Miaoke, looking pitiful, added, You're our only hope, Teacher Liang. If you don't go out, we'll all die here, if not from the cold, then from hunger. Teacher Liang Yu felt a pang of frustration but quickly steadied herself, reminding herself that she needed to be a steady presence for her students. Fighting the urge to snap, she forced herself to her feet. "And if the creature strikes while I'm gone?" she asked cautiously. Shenmiaoka pressed on, her brow furrowing. "Then you just have to be quick and come back as soon as you can." The class monitor, sensing Liang's hesitation, gently pulled Shenmiaoka back and said calmly, "Don't worry, Teacher Liang. We'll do our best to protect everyone." But within himself, the class monitor was less empathetic, scoffing inwardly at Liang Yu's protective instinct. "In her place, I wouldn't care about anyone else. I'd keep all the food for myself. Yet, thanks to her, I'm still alive." With desperation in her eyes, Shenmiaoka pleaded, "Teacher Liang, you're our only chance. Please help us, we'll starve without food." Leaning heavily on her long sword for support, Liang Yu made her decision. "All right. I'll make a run outside. Be careful and stay alert while I'm gone." Meanwhile, Wu Chengyu, the class monitor, had his own plans. Observing the creature's behavior over the past month, he had noticed it played with its prey, usually taking only 2 or 3 students at a time. Quietly, he had selected a few he deemed expendable to use as a distraction if the creature struck. Stepping outside, Liang Yu was acutely aware of the creature lurking nearby, waiting for an opportunity. She didn't intend to venture far. Her mind was set on facing the beast in a final showdown. "Either it or I will leave here alive today," she thought resolutely. "I'm willing to sacrifice myself if that's what it takes to bring it down." Back inside the gymnasium, Lu Karen continued to comfort her friend, Yang Xinshin. "Is your hand still hurting?" she asked gently. Yang Xinshin, shivering, looked gratefully at her. "In this cold, it's hard to feel anything." With determination, Lu Karen encouraged her, "We'll make it through this. Don't lose hope." Just then, a mocking voice interrupted, "What's the point of that optimism? Do you think luck will keep you alive forever?" Another student sneered, "Living with a disability, if I were you, I'd have ended it by now." Their scornful laughter filled the room, as others joined in, adding, "You're just holding everyone back. The next time that monster appears, you're finished." Yang Xinshin remained silent, unused to confrontation. Lu Karen felt her anger rising and wanted to defend her friend, but before she could respond, a massive shadow darkened the window. She jumped to her feet, pushing Yang Xinshin aside and shouting, "Run!" At that moment, a large claw shattered the window, sweeping into the gym. Wu Chengyu and his cohorts, though visibly shaken, had prepared for this. He motioned to a few stronger students, then pushed some of the expendable ones toward the creature. The unlucky students were crushed in an instant, their screams cut short. In a panic, the rest scattered, scrambling to escape the chaos. Outside, Liang Yu noticed the creature's back was to her, giving her the opening she needed. With fierce determination, she gripped her long sword and charged. The beast didn't react in time, and her blade slashed across its neck, drawing a shrill, piercing cry from the creature. The other students froze in terror, helpless but cheering Liang Yu on from a distance as she bravely positioned herself between the monster and the gym's entrance, determined to protect them. Suddenly, Zhang Yi and his companions appeared at the entrance, drawn by the commotion. Liang Yu's heart lifted as she spotted the unfamiliar figures, hoping they were here to help. "They're strangers, could they have come to rescue us?" she shouted, "Quick, help us take this thing down." Chun Lei, upon seeing the skilled, fierce woman, was about to rush forward, but Zhang Yi stopped him, studying her carefully. Her combat skills were exceptional, too refined to be those of an ordinary person. She had to be a highly skilled ability user. Moreover, their objective was simply to locate survivors, not to fight a battle that didn't concern them. "Let's not get involved right now," Zhang Yi decided. Our priority is finding people. She looks capable enough to handle it herself. Uncle Yu nodded in agreement, thinking it best to steer clear of someone with her lethal swordsmanship. Without another glance, the three turned and walked away. Liang Yu stared after them, flabbergasted. "Aren't you men?" she shouted, frustrated at their indifference. But they ignored her and headed straight for the gymnasium. With a swift kick, Uncle Yu broke open the door, causing the students to scream, though they relaxed when they saw that more people had arrived. Zhang Yi quickly noticed a girl in a wheelchair and muttered, "Good thing we got here in time, otherwise, this would have been a wasted effort." Just then, Wu Qingyu approached them with an air of authority. "Are you from West Mountain Base? Did my father send you?" he asked, as if assuming they'd come specifically for him. Zhang Yi raised an eyebrow. "West Mountain Base? First I've heard of it." Wu Qingyu continued confidently, "My father is Wu Jiangwo, leader of Heavenly Sea City. Surely you've heard of him?" Zhang Yi chuckled, "Can't say I have." He eyed Wu Qingyu, amused by his airs of superiority. Though the boy's clothes were once expensive, 2 months without a bath or change left him looking as rough as a street beggar trying to act like a young master. Curious about what Wu had mentioned, Zhang Yi pressed him for details. "What do you know about West Mountain Base?" Wu Qingyu hesitated briefly, "Are you from another shelter?" Then, muttering to himself, he added, "West Mountain Base is the closest to the school. Strange that they'd send you." Hearing this, Zhang Yi's interest piqued. He knew there were multiple emergency shelters in Heavenly Sea City, but clearly, West Mountain Base was significant. Recalling similar mentions from Wang Siming, Zhang Yi realized there were likely more high-level shelters in the city, hidden from the general populace. Intrigued by the potential to gain valuable intel, Zhang Yi decided to probe further, asking Wu Qingyu with an air of casual interest, "So, what can you tell me about the local shelters?" Wu Qingyu, though outwardly naive, wasn't easily fooled. He waved his hand dismissively, "I don't really know much. I've been stuck in this school since the disaster started. If I'd known how serious it was, I would have left sooner." Judging by his ragged appearance, Wu looked more like a street beggar than a rich kid. Zhang Yi figured the young man likely had little useful information, especially after being isolated for so long. If he had any way of reaching the outside world, his influential family surely would have rescued him by now. Seeing Wu as no longer worth his time, Zhang Yi turned his focus to Yang Xinxin, ignoring the boy completely. Some other students, sensing an opportunity, crowded around Zhang Yi and his companions, trying to bargain their way out of the nightmare they'd been living in. "Take me with you, I'll pay you handsomely. My dad owns Chongming Group. I could even arrange an official position for you if that's what you're after," one student offered eagerly. Others were just as desperate. One girl even approached Uncle Yu, asking shyly, "Do you have a partner? If your wife wouldn't mind, I wouldn't mind being, well, the third party." Uncle Yu looked flustered, glancing at Chun Lei with embarrassment, but ultimately stayed silent. It was clear that Zhang Yi would decide who, if anyone, they took with them. Finally reaching Yang Xinxin, Zhang Yi confirmed her identity. Just as he prepared to leave with her, Yang Xinxin stopped him, saying, "Could you please do me a favor?" With a smile, Zhang Yi nodded. "Of course, as long as it's not something like saving your whole class." Yang Xinxin cast a worried glance towards the corridor. "Could you stop the fighting out there? I'm afraid they'll get hurt." Sensing the implications, Zhang Yi raised an eyebrow. "You just want me to stop them, not help, right?" He didn't pry further, though, as he saw this as a chance to earn her trust, knowing she'd likely be valuable to him later. He motioned to Chun Lei and Uncle Yu, and the three of them walked toward the corridor where the battle was taking place. Liang Yu was locked in fierce combat with the beast, its fur scattered across the ground from her powerful strikes. Zhang Yi, spotting the shredded fur, quickly collected some samples into his alternate space, thinking it might be worth investigating later. Giving Chun Lei a glance, he signaled for her to act. With a wave of her hand, she summoned her ice powers, causing a thick sheet of ice to crack above the corridor. In an instant, the icy ceiling collapsed, creating a barrier that separated Liang Yu from the beast. The creature fled, disappearing into the shadows. Furious, Liang Yu whirled around, fixing Zhang Yi and Chun Lei with a glare. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Chun Lei quickly ducked behind Zhang Yi, who shrugged nonchalantly and replied, "Just helping out a fellow human. No need to thank me." Liang Yu raised her sword in outrage, trembling with anger. "I was on the verge of killing it. Why would you interfere?" Zhang Yi sighed, pointing to Yang Xinxin. "Your student asked me to help. Do you think I'd step in otherwise?" He was about to lead Yang Xinxin away when Liang Yu, her patience exhausted, launched herself at him with deadly intent. Zhang Yi reacted instinctively, pulling out his golden desert eagle and firing a shot. To his shock, Liang Yu's blade moved faster than his eyes could track, slicing the bullet cleanly in two. Stunned, he muttered, "She cut a bullet, with a sword?" But Liang Yu was relentless, lunging at him again. Zhang Yi smirked, snapping his fingers to open a dimensional gate directly in her path. Caught off guard, Liang Yu stumbled through it, her momentum carrying her into the alternate space. The gate closed just as Zhang Yi collapsed from the force of her charge. Chun Lei and Uncle Yu rushed to help him, but Zhang Yi held up a hand, indicating they should keep their distance. After a few seconds, he reopened the gate, and Liang Yu fell to the ground, weakened by the effects of the alternate space. Time nearly stood still there, leaving anyone trapped inside dangerously drained upon their return. With a touch of irritation, Zhang Yi picked up her sword, remarking, "Always so fierce. I tried to help, and this is the thanks I get?" He examined her sword, noting its fine craftsmanship and potential value, and decided to keep it for the time being. As Liang Yu struggled to her feet, she demanded, "Give me back my dragon's roar." Zhang Yi ignored her, waving at some nearby students. "Can someone help your teacher to a corner?" The students hurried to assist, while Liang Yu, weakened and visibly frustrated, muttered bitter threats. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Pointing to Yang Xinxin, Zhang Yi replied, "I'm here for her. She's my girlfriend's sister, and I'm taking her with me." Liang Yu's face shifted, and she pleaded, "Can't you take the others as well? They won't survive here." The students, sensing a chance, began to cry out, "Please, take us too. The creatures already killed hundreds here. My dad's a high-ranking official, he'll repay you if you help." Zhang Yi held up a hand to silence them, his patience wearing thin. "Enough. I'm only taking Yang Xinxin. I'm not responsible for the rest of you. You have families, don't you? Get them to help." The students' hopeful expressions turned to despair as they explained that all communication had been cut off since the disaster struck, leaving them stranded and out of options. Watching Zhang Yi and his group from afar, Liang Yu couldn't help but admire their unique strength and experience. Recognizing Zhang Yi's ability, she earnestly appealed, "Please, Zhang Yi, save these innocent students. They are our country's future, its hope." Hearing her heartfelt plea, Zhang Yi chuckled bitterly. "Hope for the country? These kids have grown up with every privilege, the finest education, pampered by officials and tycoons alike. They may score top marks, but what can they truly offer society? I don't see their worth. Do you really believe that the future should rest on their shoulders?" He waved his hand dismissively. I'm just an ordinary man, here to save my family, not the privileged. As Zhang Yi readied to leave with Yang Xinxin, a group of students with dark intentions closed in. One suddenly grabbed Yang Xinxin by the neck, while Lu Karen was pinned by another student. With a fierce glare, Zhang Mengning threatened, "Take us with you, or I'll strangle her right now." Horrified, Liang Yu stepped in, pleading, "Stop. We're all classmates, you can't do this." Yet the students ignored her, seeing her only as a protector, not a peer. Calmly, Zhang Yi glanced at Uncle Yu and Chun Lei, remarking with a chuckle, "They think they can threaten me. I'd suggest they ask the last guy who tried, though he's currently buried under 2 meters of snow." Without breaking his casual demeanor, Zhang Yi swiftly drew 2 police pistols and fired, ending the threat in an instant. The surrounding students screamed in terror, unaccustomed to such brutal reality. Even Liang Yu was left trembling, her voice shaky as she whispered, "They're just children. How could you be so heartless? You, monster." Zhang Yi raised an eyebrow. "Children? They know how to hold a hostage, to bargain with lives. And you call that childish?" Brushing off their accusations, he approached Yang Xinxin, who stared at him blankly, deeply unsettled by the violence. In an attempt to reassure her, Zhang Yi extended his hand, saying, "Let's go. Your brother-in-law will take you home." Still in shock, Yang Xinxin hesitated, glancing toward Lu Karen. "Can you bring my friend too?" she asked softly. Although Lu Karen's presence piqued Zhang Yi's curiosity, he didn't see a need for her initially. Sensing his reluctance, Yang Xinxin quickly added, "Lu Karen was also specially admitted here, like me. She's a genius in mechanics, a true prodigy. The wheelchair I use, she crafted it herself. I can assure you her talents are exceptional." Intrigued, Zhang Yi assessed Lu Karen. His shelter could benefit from someone skilled in mechanics. He met her gaze and asked seriously, "What can you offer in return?" Eyes brightening, Lu Karen responded eagerly, "I'm well versed in industrial design, automotive repairs, firearm maintenance, and even weapons forging. I could be of immense help in the right environment." Realizing her value, Zhang Yi nodded, feigning reluctance. "Fine, for Yang Xinxin's sake, I'll let you come." Overjoyed, Lu Karen hurriedly assisted with the wheelchair, grateful to avoid the cruel hands of her classmates. Seeing Lu Karen's success in gaining Zhang Yi's favor, other students pressed forward, pleading their skills. "Mr. Zhang, I'm fluent in 8 languages, I can be your interpreter. I'm a skilled driver, I can handle the transportation." But despite their talents, Zhang Yi doubted their usefulness in the harsh, unforgiving post-apocalyptic world. Suddenly, a young girl named Shen Miaoka, the class committee leader, blocked Zhang Yi's path. "You can't leave us here like this," she asserted. "If it weren't for your interference, Teacher Liang could have defeated that monster. At least finish what you started." With a gun in hand, Zhang Yi coldly replied, "I admire your courage, but it wouldn't have mattered whether I came or not, you'd all still be staring down death." His words silenced the crowd, and the group dared not argue further. As Zhang Yi's group prepared to leave, Yang Xinxin turned back, giving Liang Yu a grateful look. "Thank you for all you've done, Teacher Liang," she said softly. Although her classmates had turned on her, Liang Yu had always shown genuine care. Yang Xinxin didn't invite her to join, knowing she wouldn't abandon the others. Trailing some distance behind, Liang Yu's group quietly followed Zhang Yi's, hoping to find a way out. When Chun Lei asked Zhang Yi about them, he merely shrugged. "If you pity them, go save them yourself. But if you want to leave them behind, just say the word." Soon, they reached the surface. Zhang Yi instructed Chun Lei to ride with Uncle Yu, tossing him a helmet. An ice ability user afraid of cold? Now that'd be a joke. Embarrassed, Chun-Li agreed, and they sped off, Yang Xinxin and Lu Karen seated comfortably in Zhang Yi's car. As they traveled, Zhang Yi offered them food and drink, a kindness that brought tears to their eyes. While they ate, Zhang Yi broke the silence, casually complimenting Yang Xinxin, "You're quite something to have lasted this long." Yang Xinxin blinked in surprise, "Me? I've been a burden to everyone. Without Teacher Liang and Lu Karen, I probably wouldn't have made it." But Zhang Yi saw through her modesty. In the post-apocalypse, luck only gets you so far. The fact that you've survived this long suggests there's more to the story, doesn't it? Her innocent smile faded, replaced by something calculating. "Brother Zhang, you're astute indeed. I see now why you've made it so far." As Zhang Yi probed further, Yang Xinxin confirmed that the monstrous creature, Flower, was indeed the one stray cat she used to care for. It had mutated and followed her, feeding on classmates who had once mistreated it. Zhang Yi saw value in the creature's intelligence and loyalty, considering how useful such a creature could be as an ally. Looking at her thoughtfully, he said, "So, you mean it's just grateful for the care you showed it? There's more to this, isn't there?" Yang Xinxin's smile became more sly. She admitted that she'd asked Flower to hold back, hoping to keep Zhang Yi unharmed, but the classmates who had mistreated her and the creature had paid the price. Zhang Yi, sensing her cunning, couldn't help but be impressed. While she spun her innocence, Zhang Yi knew that behind the fragile facade lay a mind as ruthless as the world they now inhabited. As Yang Xinxin spoke, a sinister grin twisted across her face. "Those foolish souls. They never realized that Flower would never harm me. Each time I emerged without a scratch, their envy grew, feeding their bitterness. I quite enjoyed watching them loathe me, only to meet their own end." Lu Karen went quiet, recalling each close call and finally piecing together what now felt obvious. Yang Xinxin continued, idly rolling a bottle in her hand like a cat toy. "Eventually, I stopped caring. It was better for everyone that those bullies ended up gone. Flower enjoyed playing with them, one by one, until there was no one left. Not that it was entirely my doing, of course." She looked toward Zhang Yi, eyes glinting with anticipation. "Tell me, do you think I was cruel?" Zhang Yi studied her for a moment before replying, "Cruel? Hardly. If anything, you and I are kindred spirits. Had it been me, I wouldn't have shown nearly as much mercy." He chuckled darkly, adding, "I only came to rescue you because of your sister's begging and your tech skills. The rest hardly matters to me." Yang Xinxin nodded approvingly. In this chaotic world, only those with value had any hope of surviving. Zhang Yi, slightly taken aback by Yang Xinxin's admiration and revelations about her hacking prowess, redirected the topic. "Just show your worth and follow my instructions, and I'll make sure you're protected. It's as simple as that." The other girls, clearly impressed, couldn't help but continue their starstruck admiration. Turning serious, Zhang Yi asked, "Yang Xinxin, if you've had the skills to communicate with the outside, why wait until now? And how did you solve the signal issue?" Yang Xinxin's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Brother Zhang, solving a signal issue is child's play for one of the world's top hackers, especially with Flower's help. Contacting you directly was always the plan. My sisters? They were just the messengers. You were my true target." This revelation left Zhang Yi slightly unnerved. What he had thought was a rescue mission had been an orchestrated scheme all along. He probed further. "Why me? We had no prior connection." With a glint of pride, Yang Xinxin explained, "My naive stepsister was the last person I expected to pull this off. I assumed she'd stumbled somewhere long ago. But then, out of nowhere, I began receiving some odd signals. She showed him a sleek, custom-made smartphone with advanced features. Yang Xinxin's gaze grew admiring. Brother Zhang, you've become my idol. From a mere warehouse manager, you've thrived in a post-apocalyptic world. Zhang Yi shivered slightly, realizing that a hacker of Yang Xinxin's caliber could uncover just about anyone's secrets with ease. He asked cautiously, "So, how much do you know?" With a mischievous grin, Yang Xinxin replied, "You could say, just about everything. From your escapades robbing Walmart to that large bank transfer, the building of your safe house, and how you almost decimated a whole neighborhood. Not to mention your ventures to the shelter and Su family town." Her face flushed with excitement, her eyes wide with admiration. "The more I learned about you, the more impressed I became." Rendered speechless, Zhang Yi thought, she's got the tendencies of a Yandere. I'm in way over my head with this one. Better to have her on my side. He took a breath and asked, "So, you used your sisters to reach out, assuming I'd save you?" Yang Xinxin giggled and nodded, something like that. "But even if you hadn't come, I would have found a way to get to you. I guessed you'd be cautious, but I wasn't entirely sure. Now that you're here, I feel relieved and touched." Zhang Yi was starting to doubt his sense of control. What he'd assumed was his own plan had been a trap laid by this clever girl. He mused to himself, with cunning like hers, she's more valuable as an ally than an enemy. Smiling slyly, he asked, "You seem close to that mutated cat, Flower. Does it follow your every command?" Yang Xinxin shook her head. "I see you've never had a cat, brother. They're friends at best. Treat them well, and they'll reciprocate. But trying to command one, especially a stray, is a different story." Zhang Yi sighed. What a shame. That powerful creature would have been a real asset under control. Just then, he glimpsed a massive shape in the rearview mirror. Flower was chasing their vehicle. Zhang Yi thought with satisfaction, looks like this cat has a bond with Yang Xinxin after all. Maybe it's worried about her. Delighted at the sight of the huge cat trailing them, Yang Xinxin opened her window. Even Lu Karen, initially terrified, started to find Flower rather endearing. When the group finally arrived at the shelter, Zhang Yi thanked Chun Lei with a luxurious pillow, bringing the man the joy of a child with a new toy. For Uncle Yu, he offered 2 large barrels of refined oil, exactly what he needed. Both men left in high spirits, promising to be there whenever Zhang Yi might call on them. After parting ways with the others, Zhang Yi led the 2 girls into the shelter. As soon as they stepped inside, Lu Karen's eyes filled with tears. Overwhelmed by the sight, she exclaimed, "Brother Zhang, this place is incredible. It's hard to believe something so peaceful and beautiful could exist in this post-apocalyptic world." Yang Xinxin, equally stunned, surveyed the surroundings with wide eyes, silently nodding in agreement. Zhang Yi gave Lu Karen a reassuring pat on the shoulder and said, "As long as you two work hard and help me solve the challenges we face, this shelter will always be your home. I'll make sure you're safe and cared for." Yang Xinxin suddenly blushed and asked with a teasing tone, "Does solving challenges include personal ones?" Zhang Yi blinked, momentarily caught off guard. This girl really has no filter, he thought. Meanwhile, the oblivious Lu Karen remained clueless about the insinuation. Zhang Yi knelt down, pinched Yang Xinxin's cheek lightly, and replied with a wry smile, "You're surprisingly bold. But don't overthink it. Your main responsibility is to maintain the shelter's cybersecurity. Leave everything else to me." Yang Xinxin's confident expression faltered as she glanced at her disabled legs, a hint of insecurity crossing her face. Is he rejecting me because of this? She wondered. Before her thoughts could spiral further, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed through the shelter. Yang Mi rushed down the stairs, her face lighting up at the sight of her cousin. Xin. Brother Zhang told me he found you, but I still can't believe it. You're alive. She grabbed Yang Xin's hand with teary eyes. Why didn't you contact me sooner? Do you know how worried I was? Yang Xin abruptly pulled her hand away, her tone cutting. What would be the point of that? You're just an actress who became famous by pandering to men's fantasies. Don't act like you're some kind of hero now. If Brother Zhang Yi weren't here, I wouldn't have bothered contacting someone like you. Yang Mi froze, visibly stung by the remark, while Zhang Yi leaned back on the sofa, casually munching on melon seeds. The dynamic between these two cousins is interesting, he mused. Yang Xin, a renowned computer genius, clearly looked down on Yang Mi's fame as a celebrity, deeming it shallow and unimportant. Nearby, Zhu Qi listened silently, her gaze lingering on Yang Xin. She couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy when she heard Yang Xin call him Brother Zhang Yi. Since when does she show this kind of respect to anyone? Zhu Qi thought, knowing Yang Xin's high IQ and sharp tongue made such deference rare. With the newcomers settled, the shelter buzzed with renewed energy. During introductions, Lu Karen revealed that she came from a family of academics. Both her parents were university professors. She was polite and quick to compliment her new sisters, earning smiles from both Yang Xin and Yang Mi as she praised their beauty and intelligence. Zhang Yi eventually stood up and patted Yang Mi's shoulder. Go prepare a meal to welcome our new members, he said before turning to Zhu Qi. Can you set up rooms for them? They'll need a place to rest. The girls quickly went to freshen up while Yang Mi prepared dinner. By the time the meal was ready, the newcomers looked refreshed, their gratitude toward Zhang Yi evident in the way they smiled at him. As they sat down to eat, Zhang Yi began delegating tasks. Yang Xin, he said, you'll be responsible for our shelter's cybersecurity. Think you can handle that? Yang Xin nodded confidently. Of course, Brother Zhang Yi. Leave it to me. He then turned to Lu Karen, who immediately sat up straight, her hands nervously clasped on her lap. And you, Zhang Yi said, since you're skilled in mechanics, I want you to work on weapons and ammunition. How does that sound? Lu Karen hesitated before replying, I can handle it, but I'll need specialized equipment. Ammunition materials are tightly controlled, so creating firearms might be tricky. But if it's cold weapons, I can manage with the right metals and tools. Zhang Yi smiled faintly. No problem. Finish your meal, and I'll show you something. After they ate, Zhang Yi led Lu Karen to a spacious underground workshop. Pulling back a heavy tarp, he revealed rows of advanced machinery. See if this works for you. If not, I can find more, or we can salvage what you need from nearby factories. Lu Karen's eyes sparkled with excitement as she examined the equipment. These are incredible. Some of this machinery is high-end, imported stuff, worth millions. This is more than enough to get started. If there's anything I don't need, I can dismantle it for parts. Her enthusiasm brought a rare smile to Zhang Yi's face. Good. Since you're the expert, I'm sure you'll know what materials to use. He retrieved a long sword from his storage space, handing it to her. Take a look at this. It belonged to Teacher Liang. She was devastated when I took it from her, so it must be something special. Can you tell me what's unique about it? Lu Karen carefully examined the blade, her eyes widening with awe. This is the dragon's roar, she said reverently. It's not an ancient relic but a pinnacle of modern craftsmanship. It's forged from adamant alloy, one of the hardest materials ever created. She elaborated, adamant alloy rivals the legendary vibranium in strength but is too costly for mass production. Crafted by Yuan Lin, the greatest swordsmith of our time, this blade can cut through iron, and even diamonds, with ease. It was awarded to teacher Liang as a high honor for her bravery during a critical mission. Losing it must have been a heavy blow for her. Zhang Yi smirked. Looks like taking this sword was worth the risk after all. Zhang Yi held the extraordinary sword tightly, a mix of amazement and intrigue flickering in his eyes. No wonder that fierce woman could face off against a demonic cat with her bare hands. With a treasure like this, she could hold her own even against terrifying odds, asterisk asterisk. As the day wore on and dinner time approached, Zhang Yi decided to prepare a lavish feast to welcome Yang Xinxin and Lu Karen properly. For too long, neither had enjoyed the luxury of a warm, hearty meal. Initially, both women ate modestly, their manners reserved, but the comfort of a hot meal soon broke down their restraint. Lu Karen, biting into a generous piece of roasted meat, mumbled in surprise, "I didn't realize the school was so well stocked. For a place with only a few hundred students and staff, it's practically a treasure trove. High-end cafeterias, international-grade ingredients, and even large convenience stores, this place had everything." Zhang Yi smiled faintly, though the sheer extravagance of the elite school was still beyond his comprehension. "No wonder you managed to survive this long," he thought to himself. Lu Karen broke his reflection, her tone softening. "Brother Zhang Yi, I can't thank you enough for coming. Even with all the supplies here, we might have starved or frozen to death in this cold without proper leadership." Zhang Yi regarded her with a steady, reassuring gaze. "You made it through by staying resourceful. Huddling together in the gymnasium for warmth was smart. Now that you're here, prove your worth, and I promise you'll have no reason to fear hunger or cold." After dinner, the group gathered around the sofa to relax. Zhang Yi turned on the television, one of the few remaining channels still broadcasting. The news, however, was grim. The ongoing extreme cold, which had persisted for 2 relentless months, had shattered global infrastructure. Fights over resources had turned vicious, and the collapse of nation-states was accelerating. Emerging armed factions now dominated, resorting to brute force to control resources and enslave survivors. The oppressive reality cast a shadow over the group. Yang Mi clung to Zhang Yi, her voice trembling. "Brother Zhang Yi, what do we do now? Everything's falling apart. How could this happen so quickly?" Zhang Yi maintained his composure, his tone measured but firm. This chaos was inevitable. In the beginning, armed groups might have held back, fearing consequences from national governments. But now, everyone realizes the truth: this ice age isn't ending soon. Without order, those with power grow bolder, relying only on their weapons to impose control. Yang Xinxin interjected, her voice analytical. "It's like the regulations in some organizations, imperfect, sure, but their existence still discouraged chaos. Now there's nothing left to keep anyone in check." Zhang Yi nodded in agreement, his expression darkening. "The era of lawlessness is upon us. Local militias and armed groups will evolve into warlords. Ordinary people will become little more than pawns, or worse, commodities." Determined not to succumb to despair, Zhang Yi took Yang Xinxin to the control room. Her eyes widened as she took in the sight of the shelter's advanced supercomputer, glowing faintly in the dim light. The sophisticated equipment looked straight out of a sci-fi film. Zhang Yi placed a hand on her shoulder. "This is your domain now. The shelter's cybersecurity is in your hands." Yang Xinxin's intense focus immediately took over as she studied the system. Zhang Yi observed her with quiet admiration. "She's brilliant," he thought. "A high IQ genius like her, even paraplegic, is perfectly suited for this role." He granted her limited operational authority, ensuring she couldn't tamper with the core systems but could oversee network defenses. Yang Xinxin began typing at lightning speed, her fingers moving like a concert pianist's. Within minutes, she completed a full diagnostic and shared her findings. "This system is incredible," she began. "A decade ago, it was the most advanced personal network system in the world, and it's still cutting edge. Its AI handles self-repair, theoretically eliminating security gaps." Her tone darkened. "But it's not foolproof. Against top-tier hackers, there are still vulnerabilities. In the past 10 days alone, thousands of attack attempts have targeted this network. If I hadn't arrived, the firewall would have been breached within weeks, crippling the shelter." Zhang Yi felt a chill at her words. "So my instincts were right. After the Lu Fengda incident, we've been under constant surveillance. And these attackers, they're no amateurs." He turned to her, his tone urgent. "Can you hold them off?" Yang Xinxin smirked confidently. "Brother Zhang Yi, don't worry. Cybersecurity is my specialty, and offensive hacking is second nature. These attackers might think they're clever, but to me, they're novices. I'll create an entirely new encrypted network. Wireless systems are too easy to exploit, we'll switch to something more secure." Minutes later, Yang Xinxin spun her chair to face him, her expression triumphant. "It's done. Let's see who dares mess with us now." Zhang Yi chuckled, patting her head gently. "Amazing work. You're truly indispensable, Yang Xinxin." Her smirk widened as she turned back to her console. "Now it's my turn to go on the offensive. Let's see who's been trying to spy on us." Though impressed, Zhang Yi reminded her, "Only gather intel if it's safe. Our priority is to stay under the radar." Yang Xinxin nodded, but the glint in her eye remained mischievous. "Relax, brother Zhang Yi. These hackers don't stand a chance. If they've targeted us, it's time they learned just how outclassed they are." Just as Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin were discussing their plans, Zhu Qir suddenly burst into the control room, her face pale and her voice trembling with fear. "There's a monster outside the shelter's door. It's as tall as a building." Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from alarm to amusement. Zhang Yi chuckled softly. "It seems your cat hasn't given up on you, Xinxin. It even managed to find its way here." Yang Xinxin tilted her head thoughtfully. "Flower only trusts me now. It must have been worried and followed me here to make sure I was safe." Zhang Yi's demeanor turned serious. "This could be the perfect opportunity to tame it. We'll need to do it now, or the people across the river at Su Family Town might end up in danger." With this in mind, Zhang Yi wheeled Yang Xinxin out of the control room. Zhu Qir, still shaken, clung to Zhang Yi for reassurance. "There's a huge cat, over 10 meters tall, lying outside the window. It's staring right into the shelter. Lu Karen said Yang Xinxin should come out." Zhang Yi placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry, Qir. That big cat is Yang Xinxin's friend. It won't hurt us." With that, he pushed Yang Xinxin's wheelchair towards the floor-to-ceiling window. Outside, Flower was lying quietly in the snow, showing no signs of aggression. Its large body was partially covered in snow, and it let out soft, occasional meows, almost as if it were asking for food. Upon seeing Yang Xinxin, its eyes softened, and it slowly closed them as if exhausted. Clearly, the creature had been waiting there for quite some time. Zhang Yi observed the creature closely, noting its sluggishness and the numerous sword wounds visible on its body. This cat must be worn out from its fight with Liang Yu. It's injured, hungry, and clearly in pain. This could be the best chance to gain its trust. Deciding quickly, Zhang Yi prepared to take Yang Xinxin outside. Let's go feed this poor big cat and see if we can start building some trust. As soon as Yang Xinxin appeared outside, the giant cat's demeanor shifted. Its large eyes sparkled with joy at the sight of her, but the moment it noticed Zhang Yi behind her, its expression turned cautious, and it stepped back slightly. Zhang Yi realized the creature still remembered their previous confrontation back at Azure Sky Academy. To ease the tension, Zhang Yi opened a portal to another dimension. With a loud whoosh, piles of cat food and dried fish spilled out onto the snow. He picked up a bag of cat food and waved it in front of the creature, speaking in a playful tone. How about this? Want to give it a try? Things are chaotic out there now. If you become my pet, I'll make sure you never run out of food. The big cat fixed its gaze on the food, its mouth watering despite itself. Zhang Yi felt a flicker of confidence. It's just a cat, after all. With enough food, I can probably win it over, he thought. But he was quickly proven wrong. The giant cat suddenly stood up, its eyes narrowing with a sharp, defiant glint. Its body language clearly conveyed, "You think I'll be tamed with just a bit of cat food? Don't underestimate me, Yang Xinxin, sitting calmly in her wheelchair, smiled at the exchange. Brother Zhang Yi, stray cats are a lot more cautious than house cats. It took me several months to earn its trust and friendship. Zhang Yi nodded, realizing that earning Flower's loyalty would take time. However, his main concern was ensuring it didn't pose a threat to the villagers at Su Family Town. He wasn't particularly worried about their safety for their own sake but didn't want to ruin his relationship with Chue Lei, who had played a role in leading Flower to the shelter.